So, how you guys want to do this? Do you wanna like talk soccer? You want to talk about Bryce behind his? Oh, Bryce! Hey, you're
Ah!
here now.
No
What's
comment.
going on? Wow, look at that! Fancy seeing you here.
No comment.
Hey, everyone, and welcome back to the MLS Now podcast. I'm your host, Russell. You can find me on social media at Mr. Danger Russ, or am I? Because today we're changing things up a little bit. We are handing over the host microphone. We're doing a throwback preseason show, taking it way back to the roots. Actually hosting us today, you can find him on social media at LionsBlog1. It's Gavin. Hey,
Howdy
Gavin.
howdy ho! You guys are stuck with me today. Russell's been putting in a shift for us on these season previews, so I'm gonna sub him out today. He's still gonna be here. We're not kicking him off unless he aggravates me, but I will be taking over. So, with that, we'll just go around.
Boo.
If you're just gonna interrupt me the whole time, I am gonna kick you out. Let's go around the room. David, he was here before me actually tonight, pretty impressively. David is here. You can find him at MLS Now Podcast. David, how you doing tonight?
Good evening, as always. You guys know I give you guys the best salads advice ever. Try the chicken Caesar salad with light dressing and no cheese, and then after that, get a sirloin steak. Well done. That's the only way to eat a steak with a loaded potato. That's less than 700 calories. I repeat myself. Well done. That's the only way to eat a steak. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. David with the big bucks and the terrible taste buds. We got it. Bryce, how we doing tonight?
Yeah, David's totally wrong there. Doing good, MLS squads back in action. CONCACAF Champions Cup. We got Colorado hosting LAFC. Should have been Miami, KC right now, but really excited. A couple debuts each side. We have a couple Cincinnati defenders now in Colorado making their debut, and then we got a couple midfielders making their debut for LA. So really pumped to follow that as we're recording here.
So I'm not caught up. Why did the SKC Miami game get pushed out?
They said for weather, they're calling for a bunch of snow last night.
Oh, it was supposed to be super cold. That's right.
But it also, from the Messi camp, Miami camp, said that they did not want to play in those conditions. So, they pushed it back to tomorrow night.
Don't blame
But
them.
they're playing in Colorado tonight in probably similar conditions. So,
Yep. Russell, we'll jump down to you. Even though you kicked us off, find him at Mr. Dangerous. You can find Bryce at BLeslie19. Sorry, Bryce, forgot about that. Russell, I can't even really see your face because you look like you are annoying your cat. But how are you doing tonight?
You're correct. I'm annoying my cat. It's great. It's the cat tax. Cat shows up to me. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing? I see you're on a podcast. Can I be part of it?" And the answer is, of course, yes. So here he is. We're both here.
Here he is.
You can
Lovely
find my
jubbly.
cat on social media at Mr. Dangerous.
You can find the cat on YouTube as well at MLS Now Podcast. We've gotten a couple comments from a valued listener, Ian, who loves the cat, loves seeing the cat in the videos. So,
The cat did not like that.
And he did not like that. Heard a little sass there. So that's enough cat for today. Maybe we'll see another appearance later on. We'll jump over to Beau. Beau, how you doing tonight? At MLS Gamut on Blue Sky. Am I correct?
That is factually correct, sir. I am cold. It is nice. I think it's a 6-degree wind chill right here in Dallas. So enjoying the frigid air, which I know a lot of you guys are listening are going to be like, pansies. But, I say that whenever you get like 90-degree heat and you're dying. It's like 112 here all the time. So it evens out.
Evens out beautifully. Same thing down here in Florida, Beau. All right. Today, you know by the title what we're here to do. We are here to preview the season. We've got a jam-packed episode. We are going to go through all 5 of our predictions. We have a nice, beautiful grid that we'll share after the episode today. So Eastern and Western Conference, 1 through 15. We'll have a nice discussion. Who's right? Who's wrong? Who's crazy? Who's on the crazy pills? We'll go through all that. And then we have some fun miscellaneous stuff like trophy winners, who's going to win wooden spoon. That's obviously the most important discussion of all. And then a bonus question at the end. And then if we have time, if we're not at 2.5 hours by the time we finish that discussion, we're also going to pick and we're going to try to agree on this as a group, a best 11 going into the season from the last season and a half of performances from players. They can be, if they're injured, so somebody right off the bat like Ricky Puig will probably be discussed. I would say he is in contention for being picked, even though he's injured. That would be my opinion. Y'all can yell at me if you disagree. We will talk about that later, though. With that, I think we can get into the predictions. Do any of you want to go first? Does anybody care? If not, we can just go left to right.
I'll happily lead us off because I want to make sure that I get my words in here before Bryce specifically.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
Because now listen, Bryce is wrong in many ways, but you'll hear about Bryce's wrongness later. Gavin, I'm going to start with the East. I'm going to start with some very bold predictions here. Clocking in, top finisher for the East, I think we're going to see the order of Cincinnati in first, Miami taking second, Atlanta third, New England Revolution fourth, Chicago, Charlotte, Orlando rounding out 5, 6, 7. I know you've got New York Red Bulls and Columbus finishing 8, 9 to round out the playoff spots, and missing the playoffs would be Montreal, New York City FC, Nashville, Philadelphia, DC United, and Toronto finishing 10th to 15th in that order.
So, okay. I'm just looking across right now. Russell, thanks for being our guinea pig. We have a lot of the same teams in the East in the playoffs, in the top 7, and then similar teams in 8 and 9 as well. So I think we're all thinking very similarly. However, the big glaring one for, I think, all of us is that last one, Columbus Crew in 9th place. I know they lost Cucho Hernandez, but we're expecting a replacement to come in, and you think they're dropping down to 9th? Please explain.
My understanding, based on going through social media, is that their general manager, Isatal, said, we were not expecting this many players to leave this season. And my understanding, again, is that they did not want Cucho to leave, but a offer came in that was very competitive, and Cucho asked for the transfer. And so you're going to tell me they can lose. And I mean, Gavin, can you pull up the transfer tracker and just read off how many players they've lost to whether it be in or out of the league? Because it's not actually, I've got it pulled up right now. So
I just still need to hear you explain how Wilfred Nancy is not going to overcome all of this. I mean, there's a good argument to be made. He is maybe one of the greatest coaches in MLS history already.
100% agree with your statement that he is the best coach in MLS. However, you've seen teams across the East and the West continue to improve, not by small margins. And they've lost Cucho Hernandez, the arguably, top 3 potentially best striker in the league. Ramirez went to LA Galaxy, played a pretty notable role with them. Yaya Boa, Alexandra Matan, these are guys that were contributing pretty significant minutes. And I mean, Keegan Hughes, Marino Hinestroza, then, it maybe doesn't necessarily move the needle tons, but they've not replaced any of these guys. They've brought in 2 goalkeepers and a midfielder, Lassi Lapalainen. What a mouthful of a name. And again, it's great, but again, that's not a needle mover for me. So you've lost all these impact players and important depth pieces, and you've brought in 2 goalkeepers and a depth midfielder. And look, the league it's not like it's a slouch league. Wilfred Zaha is being brought in Charlotte. Charlotte are already a menace at home, and now they actually have an attacker that's going to finish chances, which was like one of the big challenges for Charlotte last year. You have Cincinnati actually potentially getting a striker that will convert and finish chances. Miami are going to continue to remain a threat. Like, look at even New England Revolution have done a complete overhaul. Like, and they still have Carlos Gil. I see a lot of teams either stayed good or got better. Oh, in Atlanta, how can I forget Atlanta? Again, just a ton of teams improved, and Columbus haven't done that. Now, maybe that changes in summer, but here's my thought process. If you make the playoffs, right, you can do that from a pretty far down the table position. But how many teams charge from like further down the table and then finish second or third, right? Like those runs don't take you all the way up the table. They make you competitive for those final spots in the playoff. And I think Columbus might have to do that if they can't get this all sorted out in what looks to be about 6 weeks.
So we're going to move on because I think we could talk about this all day. David, I'll let you in a second. I do think striker is a gap, but also they still have Jason Russell Rowe, who I think is primed to have a breakout season to cover while they're getting their new striker. David, go ahead.
No, I agree with Beau on Nancy. He's not going to let his team miss the playoffs. He's a smart coach. But my question to you, Russell, is on Chicago Fire. You have them pretty high up for me. Why is that?
The crazy thing, as mad as this is going to sound, is that Greg Berhalter is a system coach, and system coaches historically do not thrive at the national team level, but system coaches, when they're able to pick their players, tend to be able to implement a consistent vision. And while that vision maybe didn't align with the talent available at the U.S. national team level, now he's got Chicago, one of the most spend-happy ownership groups in the league. I mean, potentially like top 3 willing to spend in the league. And they're saying, hey, we're going to back you. We're going to give you money. Go put together a roster that you think is going to fit your vision. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's going to get considerably better results.
All right.
I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about Chicago.
Bryce is laughing over there. He either fully agrees with me or he's like looking at memes online and he's just checked out of the episode. But he would never disagree.
I'm laughing because the person that asked your question as you were answering, I saw Chicago move up the standings a little bit. So I'm like, I think you sold him.
No, I forgot on why on Toronto who left, because I thought one player in Toronto was still there, but I remember who left for Toronto.
The timing was just incredible. I just was caught on camera laughing.
That's good. I was literally just about to say, well, the person who just asked that, we're probably going to be talking about Chicago later, considering where, David, you had them in the standings. But obviously, that has changed. Look, you can change last minute.
I would like to go next.
Well, last thing, New England in a home playoff spot. Russell, going to give you your chance on that decision as well. Sorry, caught you drinking. My bad. Bad hosting.
That's okay. That's okay. I may need to be drinking to be able to defend a position of New England in a home playoff spot. But I think ultimately, look, you've got the known quantity of a former MVP and Carlos Gil on New England. And as much as I love to hate Caleb Porter, and I really love to hate Caleb Porter, and so does the rest of the league for that matter, the problem is he stumbles into just like 18 months of success randomly. And it tends to be right when he's got a bunch of players that ownership has invested in and brought in for him. And like, that's where we are in the Caleb Porter, life cycle, right? Is he comes in, stinks it up, has a terrible season, convinces ownership, invest in me. They do. And then he has like a weirdly good season and is looking competent. And then, 4 years from now, he's going to point to that again when he gets his next job, because, after this season, it'll go downhill because everyone who's a fan and everyone who's a player will also get tired of Caleb Porter, and then they'll stop playing for him. But like, that's not where we are in the life cycle. So
I agree that's where we are in the life cycle. He literally revamped his entire squad along with the front office. But fourth, that's a lot of change to turn around and get fourth, but things can change very quickly in MLS. Any last thoughts on that?
Change.
On that, New England in fourth place.
No,
I had New England in fourth as well.
There you go. See, and Beau knows ball, so now I feel even better about it.
But yeah, I don't know if you want me to like defend that now or just later or what.
You don't have to defend it. You can agree with me, Beau. What's your rationale for agreeing with me? Because we both have very good takes on this, I think.
Right, yeah. Well, of course. I mean, yeah. I think that you left off probably the most important name. That I think Leo Campana is probably a top 5 striker in this league.
Oh yeah. You know what? Honestly, that was a reasoning, and I completely forgot about it because I was
so
having fun
you give
dumping on
me
Porter.
a season of Carlos Hill and Leo Campana. Luca Langoni showed flashes of absolute brilliance last year. I'm a big Matt Polster fan. Him anchoring the bot. I mean, there's a lot of potential here. Again, I think the only thing holding them back is Caleb Porter, personally. Again, like I have made
You're
no
saying that's why they
secrets
won't be second.
Yeah, honestly, I actually I flirted with New England at second or third, but I genuinely think that I don't know if he just hasn't evolved with the rest of the league or what. I know, well, I won't go into other stuff. I'll tell you guys some stories off air, but I'm not the biggest Caleb Porter fan, but I feel like that the ceiling is there, especially if Campana can stay healthy and Hill and Campana like actually start to click early. That could be a really scary team that pops up on the schedule for any team.
I'll just give my quick thing for New England. I definitely think the ceiling can be hosting a playoff game, but with so much change, and I know Campana's been in the league, and then they just swapped benches with San Jose, but a lot of the other players that they're bringing in, the 2 center backs, are new to the league, and for this, for a good team to have that much change, and they kind of have to have a lot of hits out of this, and it's just sometimes a lot of hits that make sense on paper don't turn out that way. So I can see the ceiling, but I was pretty hesitant when it came to the Revs just because there was so much change. But at least their best player wasn't, so that is a good part of it.
All right. David, you said you wanted to go next?
Sure thing, Gavin, if you insist. I would like
You
to.
asked for it. What do you mean if I insist?
I think I want to hear Gavin's then, since David seems reluctant.
No, I'll go next. I never in my life thought I would put them in first, ever, but I have Cincinnati in first place, followed by Atlanta. Second, Inter Miami third. Fourth, I have Columbus Crew. Fifth, I have Orlando City. Sixth, I have Nashville, which I'm expected to get some questions from that. Seventh, I have the Red Bull. Eighth, that was the one where I was mostly complicated in to choose between Charlotte or Red Bull for the 7th spot. I gave it to the Red Bull. 8th is Charlotte. 9th is New York City FC. 10th is New England Revolution. 11th is Montreal. 12th is Chicago. 13th is the Union. 14th is my beloved DC United. And 15th is Toronto. Any questions?
So we didn't talk about it with Russell, but let's talk about the top team, Cincinnati, because he also picked Cincinnati over Miami. I think a lot of people are expecting Miami to get first again. What was your rationale there?
Oh, simply, I saw the friendlies of Inter Miami, and Luis Suarez is hopping on one knee. I mean, last year he was hopping on both, but now he's really hopping on one knee. It's just bad. It's really bad. But Cincinnati, mostly the moves they made. Evander's going to be, for me, if not Peck, then him MVP for this season. I would honestly, when we'll discuss that later. Their up top looks solid, like Russell mentioned. I think it was Russell that mentioned earlier. They finally have a striker that can put the goal in the net. And yeah, I honestly think they're going to be one of the best duos within the league. They have a pretty solid team, and I'm expecting to see a Cincinnati. And I know Bryce is not going to like this. A Cincinnati, the type of play that we saw from Atlanta United when Tata was there, like that dynamic type. Is going to be, for me personally, with the type of players they have, they should hopefully finally Kubo can step up for me, right? Because you guys know how I feel on Kubo, but Cincinnati should take first place. I really don't think Inter Miami has it this year to take it.
All right, who wants to go next? Who wants to pick it apart?
I can do it since we can cap off the Cincinnati in first trio out of the 5 of us. Similar 3, but my 2 and 3.
Sorry. I meant who wants to ask David questions next.
Oh. I guess I can also do that.
Okay.
Well, don't sound so excited, Bryce.
Our host right now. Where's our old host?
Well, I guess you have Nashville the highest of all of us. I had Nashville pretty high in 9th. You have them in 6th. What do you like about their off season that makes you think that they're going to be fighting close to that 4 line to get?
Oh boy!
Oh, you guys
Watch
are
out.
gonna.
It's gonna go down again. We're gonna watch the picks change.
You guys are gonna hate me for this. How do you pronounce the coach's last name? You guys know I have a hard time.
Callahan.
Callahan knows the league well. I know he didn't have the players within the league. I know he didn't have the best job in Saudi. Was it in Saudi he was at, or Qatar? I know he was.
He was with the U.S. men's national team. He
got a coaching job as well after that. I forgot the name. Anyways, I'm a big Mukhtar fan. Big. And I honestly think we haven't talked about him at all. Not just us, but nowhere within the league has his name been brought up that I've seen personally on Twitter, on Instagram, anywhere. I do think that the player that they added, and again, I'm not going to butcher his name, 21-year-old kid from the Swedish league, can help them out a lot. But I honestly believe Mukhtar's going to carry that team, take the team on his back. And for me, it is, look, I'm a big person when it comes to the coach. New England Revolution, like you guys talked, Campana, big on him. Gio, you guys know how I feel on him. I love the way Gio plays. Their coach sucks. Like, he can't take them to the promised land. Bruce Arenas was able to do that because he's an experienced coach. He knows how to get the most points. He knows how to get the best out of players, and we're going to talk about them later on when we get to the West. But to Beau's point, Caleb Porter doesn't have what it takes to take that team and make them a competitor within the East. But that's honestly why I have Nashville, because I think Mukhtar can make that change. Last year we didn't talk much about him, but I fully trust him this year.
Where I get hung up on this, David, and I want to side with you. I want to believe in you.
By the way, I honestly think you have Columbus low just because you guys have a rivalry with them.
No. Columbus is in the right spot. And Nashville I have even lower, and I believe that's the right one. But here's the thing, David. Nashville was anemic in attack last year, and so they went into the offseason and they didn't address any of that. None of the questions that existed about the attack was answered. Like, they're going to be running out. Maybe they'll put people in different positions, but like, in fact, they didn't they lose Schaffelberg, who could give them something. Bryce is shaking his head no. That I thought they lost someone else on.
No, they lost Godoy, but I don't know if that's really a loss.
It's not.
For some reason, I was thinking that they had lost someone down on the wings.
Well, they lost Randall Leal.
They already were losing Randall Leal.
They
He's
lost him
injured
like
every
3
single
years
year.
ago, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know. Maybe it's my nostalgia on Mukhtar that has them so much up there.
Shackmore is who I was thinking of.
Yeah, maybe it's my nostalgia on Mukhtar that has them up there, but I really do think they can turn it around. Let's talk week 4, week 5 to see how they're doing. And we can go on that, see how your Columbus is doing, and then we'll see how my Nashville is doing.
We'll definitely talk week 4, week 5. Go ahead, Beau.
I would say, hey man, David's just going on those Nashville vibes, man. I respect it. Leaning into the vibes. I get it, man.
Yeah.
He's leaning into something.
David,
I'm not convinced that I'm the only one drinking on this podcast.
the reason no one's really been hitting on Hani Mukhtar is Hani Mukhtar's been in decline numbers wise, and that's not all his fault. So if you're predicting a reascendancy to MVP level Hani Mukhtar, I think 6th is fair if he's hitting those levels. I just don't think people are predicting that out of him again.
You look at it, right below them, and you guys are going to disagree with me highly on this. NYCFC, no. They're not going to compete at that level. Montreal, no. Chicago, no. Union, especially, no. We can talk about that, losing their coach, losing some players, not really making many moves. DC United, I love you. I'm going to go see you a lot this summer, but I don't expect them to do much. And then Toronto, and I moved Toronto, by the way, while he was talking, because Insigne left. Their coach was fired, right, because of the whole Espionage thing.
Insigne has not left. Their coach was fired.
I thought Insigne left.
No, they
tried to get rid of him.
Insigne
He refuses to go.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course, I would refuse to go if I was getting paid that much, too.
The insane thing is they brought him 3 offers from other teams in Europe and even said, we'll pay you most of what you're owed just to go now. We'll pay out most of your contract remaining, and you can go play for another team who ostensibly is going to pay him money.
And to finish it off, I know we have 3 more to go through. This is what, the third coach to go with? Third coach within the last 3 years? Like, they don't have a system. They can't find a system. They're struggling, which is crazy to see a team like that compared to 5 years ago. They were going back-to-back MLS championship finals. Like, it's ridiculous to see a team with that caliber struggling that much. And yeah, it's just too many coaches. Players don't adapt. I don't see them going anywhere again.
Yep, that's fair. Last one. DC United, since you are the DC United fan, I just wanted to get your take. We all had DC United pretty low down the rankings, not making the playoffs. So let's hit on them real quick. Why were you're the closest to the team. Why do you feel that that's the right spot for them?
And I know you and I are going to record tomorrow, correct? You know how I have a hard time remembering the times we're supposed to record.
You never got back to me. So if we're scheduling this live, I love it. Yes, we're doing it tomorrow.
Okay. Do you want to discuss it now or discuss it tomorrow?
Let's do it. Let's plan on tomorrow. I'll text you a time. We'll do it.
All right.
Just to let you know, I already took that 7:30 time.
Like I said, I'll text you a time. We'll do it.
I love how everything happens live.
We'll do it live.
So David, again, DC United, what's going on there?
I don't see our beautiful striker Benteke having the success he did last year. I really don't. I think it was one of those players that came in and catches everyone off guard, and he has this double goal games. But you guys go look at our roster. Tell me what moves that we made this offseason have impressed you or have caught your eye, and there's not one. There's not one. San Jose ownership that we've criticized so much on this podcast finally went out and spent. Our DC United. My DC United ownership sucks when it comes to spending players. The most we ever spent on a player, I think, was the Peruvian guy that came over from Liga MX. He was here like one season for us, and then he disappeared. We paid like $5 million for him. But again, if you're listening, mention me a move DC United made this offseason that you were like, you know what, they can turn it around. You know what, they can make the playoffs, and you're not gonna find any. No. they're not gonna find they're not gonna change the whole roster compared to last year. We haven't made the playoffs in a while. I mean, I miss Acosta, I miss Rooney. Bring them back. Well, not bring Rooney back. Bring Acosta back. But that was the best we've seen from DC United in a while.
So
Shoot.
so no hope that
No.
what's his name? Excuse me. Why am I forgetting his name? Pirani? Is that his name? Yeah, Gabriel Pirani. No hope that he's going to have a breakout season.
Look,
There's nothing there.
I was honestly surprised. You guys are not gonna like this, but I was honestly surprised that we didn't go for more of a better number 10. Honestly, I tweeted this week that I loved how much money is being spent within the league, and like there's nothing within DC United, no rumors going on with them, nothing. Like there's no movement on our side. We're just stale at the moment and hoping for the best, and yeah, that's like I'll give you an example, and I don't need to take much of the time. The New York Red Bulls. One of the reasons I have them within the playoffs is because we know how they play. They have a system how they play. They're a frustrating team to play against. They don't like having the ball. They just like doing a counterattack or getting an opportunity on a set piece, but it works out for them, right? It works out perfect for them. We know how they play. They don't have to go after big name players. They don't have to make the best moves. They don't have to waste a lot of money, right? But we know how they play. They get it done. DC United doesn't have a system, doesn't know how to play. You see one game from them where they can score 3 goals, and you see a next game for them where they're getting beat by five goals. Again, we can discuss this a lot tomorrow and go into further details tomorrow, but I'm not there. I've been talking to I forgot the podcast name. I'll mention it tomorrow. But yeah, we're not. Trust me. If you guys go, shout out to the other podcast, and I'll bring the names tomorrow. But go listen to. I'll bring it tomorrow. And yeah, they're not. We're not happy. Like the fan base is not happy. I can
You
tell.
got it. I mean, yeah, I don't really disagree with any of that. So, all right, we will move on to Bryce since you were so eager to start us earlier when we still had to talk to David about some of his picks. Bryce, take it away.
As I was saying, similar 3 to Russell and David, just was leaning Russell, Cincy, Miami, Atlanta 1 through 3. I have New York Red Bulls in 4, Charlotte 5, Columbus 6, Orlando 7. In the 8-9 matchup, I have Chicago versus Nashville. And then missing the playoffs, NYCFC, New England 11, Philly 12, Montreal 13, and then DC and Toronto at the bottom.
I'm struggling
Bryce
to pick.
agreeing with me is how I know that my predictions are wrong.
Yeah. Struggling to pick a huge outlier here. Maybe New York Red Bulls in a home playoff spot.
All right.
Speak a little bit on that because I think most of us had them a little bit lower.
Yeah, I think year 2 in Sanders Schwartz's system is going to be great. That plus the team was New York Red Bulls were 2 different sides of the scale last year, with and without Emil Forsberg. I'm betting on a healthy 2025 season for Forsberg, and they lost Reyes. They traded him. They lost Tolkien, but the left wing back side with Edwards and Morales, whoever wins that job, I'm pretty excited to see who wins that. I think Edwards in a pinch could be a good short-term fit. Morales maybe the long-term project there. I like the Alexander Hack move. They brought Tim Parker in to be that 4th center back. Of course, Parker is getting the end of his days, definitely out of his prime, but I like how they filled that room. Frustrating side to play. I think they did. I think their DP striker is a little bit underwhelming in Choupo-Moting, but it's not like they got a lot out of Vainzier anyways from that position last year. So I'm thinking they have a really solid floor heading into the year. And I know it looks like I'm the highest out of all 5 of us, but I think that they're going to be fighting for this 4th spot towards the end. And I just think that they're just going to find their way in it. I like Sanders Schwartz a lot. I'm happy he stayed in the league because I know there's rumors of him already leaving. And I just think Forsberg leading this team healthy gets this team above some of the other teams I had on the cusp there.
I think you're mad, for the record.
And Cornell had a great second half of the year. He's only 28. If he continues that, or am I mad because they just look great in the playoffs? They're a great playoff team out last year. Like I think they always hang around close to that conversation, even when they shouldn't be.
A great playoff team does not make a great regular season team, though.
But before the past year, when I'm saying that, they were always a great regular season team, not a great playoff team. So
far, I've gone, Bryce has gone, and Russell. No one has said anything. We all agree that Atlanta's going to be top 3.
I don't think Beau agrees with that, but I figured that we would get.
Okay. I mean,
we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Has questioned it, so that's why I brought it up.
Yep, we'll get to that.
And I was close not putting Atlanta third anyways. I was actually going to put Red Bulls above.
That would have been crazy sauce. Bryce, sticking with you.
I feel good about them. Just like Nashville, David, vibes.
Oh, I love it. Let's just go further down then. We all picked NYCFC to miss. So maybe let's just stick with them right now. What are your feelings on NYCFC, and what was your reasoning for placing them just outside of the playoffs in 10th?
Yeah, and I had them in at first, and then I was looking at the East, and I realized that Chicago in for Montreal was the only difference I had from the playoffs a year ago. And I really didn't like picking 8 of the 9 teams to make it in the same year. And NYCFC, losing Rodriguez wasn't like a star player for them, but he was a really good player for them. So I don't know what's on the horizon for them. Incoming, I see Russell making faces. Russell, you don't think he was a good player for him?
Someone clearly does not listen to the MLS Now podcast preseason content when Joe and I spoke about Santi. I am still stunned that 17 million is being put up.
I'm not disagreeing with you there.
I'm just like, I don't think anyone's sad to see him leave is the thing. I think most people are like, we're going to be better without him.
That's crazy sauce to me, because if you watch him, every single good offensive thing that came, mostly Santi Rodriguez was almost always involved in the play.
He had to. He was the main one with everyone leaving.
I just don't like their outlook with relying on a lot of young potential, and I didn't like that last year. I just don't think that's the build for this league. I think it's good to pepper that in, but I just don't think that should be the driving force around a team. And I had them around that 9 to 13, 9 to 12 conversation, and I just think putting them in the middle of that feels fair. They have a new coach coming in. Obviously, people could say Janssen could be an upgrade to Cushing. I hope he is, because Cushing wasn't the best coach, but it's still a coach that's not familiar with the league, and he's going to probably hit some of those adjustment periods that a lot of coaches do coming from a different league.
I think Martinez is going to come back down. He scored, I think, 17 goals last year. He's going to have to come crashing back down. Santi Rodriguez was second on the team with 13. James Sands left as well and then broke his ankle almost immediately. So I think that NYCFC have a lot of things. Now, I am a really big, for those of you who I love Malachi Jones. Malachi Jones was a rookie last year, tore it up, and then jacked up. I think it was his ankle. Malachi, if you're listening, I'm sorry. I love you, man. But no, I think that if he comes back strong, it could really kind of offset that. But I think they have a lot more holes in that. The City Football Group, it's like NYCFC is kind of like the redheaded stepchild that they just pretend doesn't really exist. So
you have Bryce Orlando in 7th with potentially maybe missing the playoffs, right? Why is that? Because they made some moves. They got some players. I mean, Facundo left, but they went to South America and got a couple of players.
Atuesta, I like Atuesta. I like him more on his first LAFC stint. I didn't like it last year, but Atuesta is a replacement for Cartagena that's out for the year. So
Yep.
that's kind of the placement for that. Loidero, obviously, played a lot of minutes. I think the loss of him isn't crazy. They're mutual buyout there. Facundo, I had higher expectations for what Orlando was going to do with that spot. And trust me, the player they're bringing in from the Croatian league could be a hit. But like when I'm looking at the profile, I'm not excited about him. I'm not excited about Muriel up top. I think they need more out of him. And bringing your DP striker off the bench that just can't rock for $4 million a year in year two. So I think Orlando is going to be good enough. I don't think that they're going to be close. I think they're going to be safely over that 9 line where they're going to be in the playoffs. But I still think that they're going to not be with the best of the East this season. As we talked about all at the end of last year, I thought Orlando's window was last year to do some damage, win that Eastern Conference, and I just don't feel good about the vibes in 2025.
I feel like Orlando is sitting in this spot where it's like, I don't feel very positive about Orlando, but I feel a lot less positive about a number of other teams, and that ends up being the teams from like 7th to 9th, are where I'm like, I don't think they're going to be terrible because there's just going to be some bad teams. And it happens every year. There's always a couple really bad teams, and you can usually see it coming pretty early in the year, if not at the start of the season. And Orlando's not giving those vibes of being one of the bad teams, but they're not, to your point, Bryce, like none of the moves that they've made scream, we're going for it. We're going to try and win silverware this year.
Yep, agree with all that. All right, I'm going to move us on to Beau. Beau, if you'll take us through yours, because we still have mine and the Western Conference to get to. And Beau, I think we're going to have some talking points for you.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, so I have Miami winning the East. I have probably the biggest prize, Charlotte in second, Columbus in third, New England fourth, Cincinnati fifth, Atlanta sixth, Red Bulls pulling up the rear at seventh, and then Orlando and Chicago, respectively, in the wild cards. And then I have Montreal, NYCFC, DC United, Philadelphia, Toronto, and then, spoiler alert, the Wooden Spoon winner this year, Nashville, bringing up the bottom of the Eastern Conference.
Let's start with Charlotte. Let's just go straight there. I am high on them, but second is higher than I was prepared to go.
Yeah, honestly, second probably is high. Like I'll say it, but I also kind of wanted to prove a point on this because I wanted to at least have one or two that it's like, kind of like a bold call, and this was the one. I think Charlotte bringing in Zaha, having Leo Labata, Pep Biel, Ashley Westwood's been amazing. Eric Williamson, Malanda and Privet last year's center back. Then they've got Tim Marine. I mean, there's not really a weakness on this team. And then not only that, but they have a really good coach. And in the second year, and all these guys fitting into his system, like I don't know what there's not to love. Like I see this team and I'm like, they can smother you defensively. In the midfield, they're pretty good at stopping stuff. And then, I mean, like Ashley Westwood is way underrated in his through balls and passes. And then you've got some really creative and attacking, pacey guys on the wings. And then, of course, one guy, I don't know how I forgot to mention, Patrick Agimang. Like, I mean, there's not a single person on this team that, like, I'm not excited to watch play. So that explains why Charlotte at second.
Charlotte at second is not out of the realm of possibility either, because let's not forget, right? You talk about teams that are really good at home and everyone's going to immediately be like, oh, LA Galaxy last year didn't lose at home in the regular season. Charlotte only had 3 losses at home in the regular season last year, and they've historically been an outstanding home team. And now you've got a player in Zaha who probably is going to solve one of the biggest questions for them, which is, how did Charlotte score? Like, it's not like Charlotte's getting blown out in any matches is the thing. Like Charlotte just didn't have answers when they got down. And so now you're going to have some proven ability to get the ball into the back of the net. And I think what that's really going to end up doing is it's probably going to take those one goal differences and shift them over a little bit. And I think where they'll be more impactful is on the road. Like their home results are already very strong. But if Charlotte just gets a little bit better on the road, yeah, like I could see them getting up into like, I don't know, the low to mid 50s. Like if it really goes well for them, right? Like you could see them getting into like those high 50s, low 60s, and then they really are talking about, looking at second place.
And
honestly, I think what I had more questions on was why you felt Columbus at third was like that. That's so much confidence in there. That's the one that shocked me more so than Charlotte.
On Charlotte, and I think that was Russell made a good point. That was our main reason we didn't choose them over Orlando last year in the playoffs, because of their away record. Right? They struggle a lot with that. And just want to say, Charlotte, I've been to that stadium. That atmosphere is one of the best in MLS. I love it. It's beautiful. I took a friend there for the first time to watch an MLS game. Loved it. He's been back with his kids. So shout out to the fans over there.
What I like about Charlotte, like Beau said, not many holes, and they still have a DP spot open. So, they could hang around that top 4 number and then in the summer say, we really need more wing play. Abada's not providing enough this year. BL, he's about to come off loan. Like, this is our time to really finally get that DP 10, which is what I think they'll probably want to do. I think that opens up a lot, and I think it's just a low-risk team. And I usually say, like, it's a high floor, like, low ceiling, but they could have a high ceiling with that DP spot to really go in towards the second half of the year. And David, I'll be at that home opener for Charlotte this year when Atlanta's playing. So, I hope their home record isn't great to start 2025.
To answer your earlier question, Russell, about Columbus, I think it's a really good point. However, I think that so much of what Columbus does well is not reliant on individual players. I mean, it is, but also not. Like, the one thing that Nancy requires of his guys is to be bold and brave on the ball. Like, they still have Steven Moreira, even though he was linked abroad. I know Cucho's out. I'm not as high on Diego Rossi as others are, but he's still there. Also, there's still enough time. I have 100% belief that these guys are going to be bringing in a DP number 9 by then. It's kind of crazy to think that they wouldn't. I know Jason Russell Rowe is there, and I know he'll get a shot. I just am not totally sure. Some people are higher on him than me. Smarter people are higher on him than I am. I think that the system is so specific that it's greater than the sum of its parts. Kind of like when, the whole, when Team USA beat, what was it, Russia years ago, like the Miracle on Ice kind of thing. It's that team itself was greater than some parts, and I feel like that's Columbus too. Now, that's not also saying that Columbus doesn't have really good players, right? Like Darlington Nagbe is maybe the greatest midfielder of his generation, of like American midfielder of his generation. Like, he's just incredible. Right. So it's not to say they don't have great pieces, but I feel like, man, you have guys like Nagbe, Rossi, and then the system, and then you have the mind of Wilfred Nancy. I can't see them not getting a home spot. Now, I could be wrong. I could definitely eat those. The one that I actually feel worse about, of all the ones, is I actually feel like
I'm looking at Atlanta in 6th. I don't know if that's where you were going.
Atlanta's biggest weakness last year was defense. And what did they do to fix that?
Beefed up the offense.
Exactly. And so, Atlanta really is kind of proving. And honestly, when was Atlanta best last year? When Dax McCarty was on the field, right? Because he's smothering those attacks. When was Nashville best? Whenever Dax McCarty was on the field smothering out those attacks. So what happened whenever Dax left? Nashville went down. I think that Atlanta was already a really bad defensive team, and then you take out a guy who Yes, I know he didn't play a lot, but when he did, it was meaningful minutes and he did stuff. I think Tristan Muyumba with Atlanta is going to have to really step up. He really regressed last year. Didn't do near as well as I thought he was going to do. He's going to have to pick it up a bit if he wants to go. I think Atlanta has the ceiling to get there, but I'll just say it, okay? Miguel Almiron's not the player that he was. If you're expecting some super fast, pacey, high pressing winger, that's just not who he is, man. Like, he went and played Newcastle forever. Like, he's not going to come back and be the same Miguel Almiron. And I think that that's what fans are counting on. Now, again, Garth Lagerwey and Chris Henderson, like, they don't get a lot of stuff wrong, but even a blind squirrel's right twice a day kind of thing. Like, maybe they'll get one every now and then wrong. But yeah, Atlanta's the one that I just, man, looking at their midfield, looking at their defense, there's just too many question marks for me to be like, yeah, man, you're definitely getting a home playoff game.
I think Almiron will have a successful year, and it's mostly because of the league, right? We all love the league and we defend the league and all that, but let's be honest, our league is not known for having the best defenses. Which, look at Luis Suarez being up there with last year in goals. Like, it's ridiculous. That's the main reason why I believe Almiron will have a successful year, just because the league in general hasn't improved in defense. It's improved everywhere else in attack and midfield, like always, right? Which what attracts the consumer, but we never focus on defense. And any player that comes in within 29, 30 years old can have a successful year.
So go ahead, Beau.
No, I think the big one too, that I thought that y'all were going to get me. I think I was one of the only people that had.
Oh, hold on.
The only one that had Cincinnati.
Yeah, let me just say this about Atlanta real quick. And then I saw Bryce wanted to come in as well. I think the speed of Latte Loth and Saba and the attack in general is going to push teams back. And I think that quality in players, it kind of helps your team's defense, because the other team can't push up as much. Like, they just can't. They can't leave that space in behind. They're going to get killed. So if there's a couple goals early in the season where Latte Loth gets in behind a high line defense, teams are going to shift and say, we need to step back against Atlanta, just because that space in behind Latte Loth is way too quick and our players aren't going to be able to deal with it. And the whole team has to shift back. And I think that's one way they did. I was kind of being coy, but also I was being serious. They addressed their offense, and that's going to help their defense. That's my opinion. Bryce, did you have anything before we move on?
I was going to say their defense last year was kind of protected with the style Rob Valentino played. He played a very defense-heavy system and just counterattack play. So that, that kind of took touches away from Brad Guzan and the whole back line. They could just really focus on keeping the ball in front of them. And going to this attacking style, I'm a little nervous that this will expose, because I think Atlanta actually had top 10 best goals against last year. But that's because Brad Guzan had a career year last year. I'm a little nervous that our defensive issues that I think Atlanta fans don't see, because they just look at numbers like goals against last year, is if we go to an attacking style that we're going to now be the ones dominating the gameplay. And when a counter comes back our way, I'm a little nervous how we're going to handle it. I think the X factor of the team is Bartosz Slisz. Last year, we kind of played him at the 6, 8, and 10. And this year, it sounds like Ronnie Dial is really putting him at the 6. You're going to be that guy. And it sounds like Klisch is going to be the kind of the 8, the free-flowing guy. Muyumba and Jay Fortune are going to fight for him. But Slisz is just kind of the guy that is going to play in the role that Dax did so well for Atlanta when he got the minutes. I think they're really going to put all of the training, all of the reinforcements to him there. So I think he's really the X factor. The offense was paid to, handle their business. I think it comes down to, how he kind of pulls the strings from stopping other teams coming back at them.
All right. Sorry, Beau. Go ahead on Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'm apparently by far the lowest on Cincinnati. It's not even close. I like Cincinnati. I do like Cincinnati a lot. However, I have major concerns. I think that Yuya Kubo and Luca Orejano don't want to be there. And guys who are kind of mentally checked out just don't perform the same. I think that I also think I watched Evander a lot last year, like a lot. There were games he just checks out, like he just like doesn't want to be there. Evander is like he's like Lucho Acosta level diva without the Lucho Acosta level production. Like I think that there's a lot of Cincinnati people are thinking like, oh, we get Evander, it's gonna be better, and like yeah, like he's a good player, right? And he has moments and stuff, but it's like when he decides he wants to have those moments, he has very high opinions of himself. And so I'm honestly concerned about him fitting in. I mean, Albright, Lucho Acosta and Albright didn't get along. Evander's an even bigger personality who gets offended by even more things. I don't even know if they get halfway through the season before stuff starts to happen. And so the one reason, I'll be honest, the one reason why I had them as high as I do is I think that I'm really high on Miazga coming back. I think that's assuming him coming back healthy. I think Miazga was a bigger part of their fall last year than Lucho Acosta was. And so yeah, I look at a lot of stuff and I'm just like, man, what if Miazga doesn't come back healthy? Or Janu and Kubo clearly don't want to be there. The striker Denki, he's good, but like not everyone hits, right? Evander coming in, like you've got they haven't had a preseason and stuff together, so that means that they're going to be gelling several months behind everyone else, and that's enough to get you out of a top 4 seed, in my opinion. Now I'm probably going to look like an idiot come October, which I look like an idiot most of the time anyway, but specifically for this, but I just something's nagging on me and telling me that this Evander and Albright thing may not be everything everyone thinks it's cut out to be.
Well, we'll point and laugh if you're wrong. Go ahead, Russell.
What stands out to me and where I think I really agree with you, like the wheels could come off very quickly for Cincinnati, specifically as it relates to health and depth. Because the second, like, let's say Miazga comes back and has some sort of like unfortunate reoccurrence, right? Like, let's say he comes in, plays a month, something else happens to his leg and he's out for like another 3 months. Who steps in behind that? Like Cincinnati does not have a player that slots in for Miazga. Like to your point, that was an enormous reason why Cincinnati fell off last year. And it was very clear the entire defense loses its cohesion when Miazga is not out there to command the field. And even Salentano in goal is not as effective. Like every single player on the back line relies on Miazga's understanding the game and his communication and his organizational skills. And it's like this team cannot take another extended absence. And just the way that the sport works, like something's going to happen. It doesn't mean it's going to be a season-ending injury. No, but you're not going to have people who are healthy for 100% of the minutes in a 10-month season. You're just not.
All right, I'm going to move us on to my picks. I had Inter Miami in first. I'll touch on that in a little bit because we didn't really talk about Miami being in first for you, Beau. But we had Cincinnati for the other 3. Cincinnati in second. I had Atlanta in third and Columbus in fourth. Orlando in 5th, Chicago in 6th, and Charlotte in 7th. For the play-in games, I had the Red Bulls and the Revolution, New York in 8th, New England in 9th. And then outside of the playoffs, NYCFC 10, Philadelphia Union 11, Montreal 12, Toronto 13, DC United 14, and agree with you, Beau, Nashville dead last 15th. So I'll start with Miami at the top. I went back and forth on this one a lot, and at the end of the day, Messi and Friends is Messi and Friends, and they just have that quality. So even though they have a really, really long, tough season ahead in multiple competitions, that's why I was kind of going back and forth. I do think when it comes to the league, you can get Messi on for the last 20 minutes of a game, 15 minutes of a game, and he'll still go and win it. We saw that plenty of times last season. And I think Messi can do it again. I don't see any signs of him dropping off in quality yet. And so I think he's going to be a menace to the league yet again. So that's why I have Miami first. But I'll open it up for questions for my 1 through 15.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm with you on Miami. I think that, I mean, if you think about Miami's like a 37-year-old hamstring away from being really, really bad. But I think one thing is Miami set the points record last year, and Messi barely played half of his team's games, and he's not going to have club competition, or sorry, he's not going to have like Argentinian obligations as much throughout the year, which I think is what's going to really help them. So I see them at the very least coming close to what they did. And they're also incredibly deep. I mean, like, because who's not going to take a discount to come play with Messi? But I'm really curious as to how Chicago Fire at 6 over, say, the Revolution, Red Bulls, and Charlotte. I would love to hear, because I think Chicago's going to be good, but I kind of wonder some of you guys are about a year or two early.
I'm just excited to see Greg Berhalter. I think similar to what Russell was saying. I Berhalter wasn't amazing with the men's national team, but I don't think he was a bust, and I don't think he was terrible. He was able to get a lot out of his players, and I think that's going to fit in well with the style of players that Chicago has. And we have year 2 of Hugo Kuipers. I think a new system with him. He's won a Golden Boot a couple times in his career, so I think he is set for a breakout season potentially. Hugo Kuipers with a new DP winger next to him. I do have a little bit of worries around their creativity in the midfield, so that's where I'm kind of like, that's why I have them down in 6. But I'm really putting it down to Greg Berhalter, and system is going to lift them, and they're going to have good momentum throughout the season, because it's been a long time coming for Chicago that they've needed some good vibes. So I'm just high on Chicago overall because of the hire and the direction they're moving.
And I know we have to go over to the West, so I'll make this very quick. We all have the Union out of the playoffs. Is it because Jim Curtin's left, or is it because the lack of moves in the offseason, or is it a combination of both?
All of the above and then some. I mean, I don't look. We heard from Ben on the preview, right? Like, Philadelphia historically not super high spending, right? Like, there was the stat going around at one point early in the offseason where it's like Cincinnati has just purchased Kevin Denke for a league record 16 point something million dollars. This eclipses the total expenditure of Philly Union on all of their transfers since the inception of the club. And then you let a bunch of players go, and you let, again, another one of those arguably best coaches in the league who leaves for, depending on, who you ask, certain levels of disagreement with the vision of the front office. And it's just like, and now you have a whole bunch of leadership gone, and you've got Andre Blake and Bedoya are probably like your last real firm leaders there on the field. Like, Philadelphia are firmly in the tear it all down to the studs, clean it out, rebuild, put new wood in, put new updated, tile in the kitchen, and put new appliances, like, clear the whole thing out.
I'll also tell you too that the locker room is in agreement. I talked with one of the Philly Union players, and they were shocked by Curtin's dismissal. They are shocked at the amount of lack of spending and some of the choices that are being made. And there's a lot of animosity between the players and the front office as well. So you have a very divided locker room as well that is questioning everything that's going on and the direction that the team's heading, which just is a recipe for disaster going into the season.
Where is MLS Hard Knocks when you need them?
Bad locker rooms. Shoot, if I had heard that, I might have put them lower. Bad locker rooms can lead to disaster seasons. Like, it doesn't matter what quality of player you have. Okay, I'm going to finish off with Montreal and Toronto. We didn't really touch on them a ton, and we all had them out of the playoffs. Montreal, to me, feels like a team of MLS rejects all across MLS. Like, they just keep picking up all these, like, secondary players who aren't impact guys. And so a lot is going to have to go right for them to compete this season. I don't see it personally. So I have them low. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree there. And then Toronto, I mean, we talked about them, I guess, a little bit, but just the stuff with Insigne, and I don't think the winger that they brought in is gonna, light the world on fire. And so they're kind of stuck with the same squad as last season, and that squad didn't really do a whole ton. So it's just kind of like a continuation from 2024 with Toronto. Anything you guys want to come back on there?
All
Yeah,
five.
I'm high. I think I'm higher on Montreal than the rest of you guys. I honestly I was fighting between Orlando, Chicago, and Montreal, who wasn't going to make the wild card. Um, I know Montreal, it really is like the island of misfit toys over there. But a lot of their guys, man, their experience, like they are MLS level players. Like they don't have a high ceiling, but the floor, you know what you're going to get. And I think that they are right around that wild card. And they were one of the ones that I really got. And I'm actually, I know sounds crazy. This is going to sound crazy. I'm just going to say it. But I'm higher on Toronto than a lot of other people. I think Insigne, I know. I still have them finishing second to last. So I'm just higher and then I don't have them at the bottom. But like, I think like Insigne, this is his final season, and apparently they're talking about playing him as a 10, which is what he should have been playing the entire time here. So you've got him up as a 10. They're moving Bernadeschi back up the wing. They've actually signed a couple guys. I don't think they're going to be as bad as last year, especially if Insigne is like, hey, you know what? Maybe I should try since I actually have a contract coming up, at the end of the season. There's a chance they couldn't be terrible. They may just be bad.
All right.
I have this fight with Montreal every year where I put them like 13th to 15th, and then they just end up fighting into the playoffs. So I'm gonna win it this year. That's why I'm so low on them.
All right. Well, I'm gonna tell the listeners the real truth. We saw the USA fight Canada in the hockey game, so we all decided to take both Canadian teams out of the playoffs.
Amen to that, man. Amen to that. All right, I'm going to move us to the West. Let's just go right back to you, Russell. That's since you started us off. We're an hour in. Let's do it.
Bringing us all the way around. All right. Well, this should come as no surprise to several of you, but I am putting Seattle number 1 in the West to finish. Oh my gosh, four of us here all agreed on Seattle. You can pick and choose who you think did not say Seattle. And then I've got the rest of the way down through the home spots. I've got LAFC, San Jose, and LA Galaxy in 2 through 4. A lot of California supremacy over there. I've got Colorado, Austin, and Dallas wrapping up 5 through 7. And then I've got San Diego and St. Louis battling it out in 8 and 9. And then missing out this year, we have 10 through 15th in order. Portland, Kansas City, Vancouver, Minnesota, Salt Lake, and Houston. And I'll just tell you right now, I had a real tough time organizing anything from like 5 to 13 this year. And
I think a lot of people did in the West. It's tough.
And I'll go and I'll defend myself a little bit in that I think 5 through 9 and 10 through 13, I feel relatively certain that like those are the teams that are going to be in there. And I could see some of those teams like shifting around. Like I could see Colorado finishing 7th, right? Like I could see Austin finishing 5th or 6th or 7th. I could see, Kansas City finishing 10th or 11th or 12th or 13th. But like, I feel confident that they're in and around the right areas. It just, they might shift up or down a few places. And San Diego, I think I'm higher on them than almost anyone else in here. And I'll tell you right now, I was high on St. Louis their first season coming in, and I got a lot of flack for that one too. And we see how that one turned out. So I'll stick to my guns on this one.
Fair enough. Russell, Salt Lake in 14th. I know you said it's a struggle, but you have to have them a little bit higher than that.
I don't have to have them a little bit higher than that. In fact, Gavin, I'll tell you right now, when I say I feel very confident, like it's a rough time to be in Salt Lake. Like, okay, you've got Diego Luna, great, wonderful. Gavin, name me another player other than McMath who had several howlers last season. Name me another player on Salt Lake.
He's on
I
Google
can.
right now.
There you go. See?
Emeka Anelli, Pablo Ruiz, man.
Ruiz. Okay, I was thinking Ruiz, but I couldn't remember his name. But like that was the face I was thinking of.
Okay, so but like point being, right? Like 3-4 names does not make a team. Like we talk about the depth issues with Cincinnati, and like Cincinnati has a very solid, on paper, good starting 11, and maybe even a good first and second sub off the bench. Salt Lake City does not have a good first 11. They certainly don't have a good first, second sub off the bench. I don't think they even have a decent first, second sub off the bench. Like, on top of that, you have Mastroeni as the head coach, and like his act there is wearing thin on the fans. I think he's probably going to lose the players as well, especially if they don't get out to a strong start this year. And I don't think they're going to. Like, again, I'm not seeing anything that makes me think, oh, they're going for it. They want to win something. They really want to like prove a point. Beau really disagrees with me, and I would love to hear your rationale on this one, Beau.
Well, to say that there's nothing that that they're doing to show. I mean, they spent a ton of money bringing in Chicho. Like,
right, and
right,
what
and then
happened?
Chicho Arango asked to leave, so they let him go. So, and then this front office has definitely shown the ownership has shown a propensity and a willingness to spend money. And so I think, oh yeah, they have. Yeah, they also brought in a DP number 10. Now he didn't hit last year, but I think it's going to hit a little bit more this year. Now, I mean, the front office has spent more than they ever have in the past. And so I think that they're going to be going after number 9, right? Because I mean, they've got plans to win. I mean, Pablo Ruiz is one of the best deep making playmakers in MLS. Emeka Anelli is Darlington Nagbe like 10 years ago. They are really good. Justin Glad is a rock at center back. Now Zach McMath, I love the guy, but like, yeah, that's probably a weak spot. But they definitely are probably maybe playoff team. I don't think they're 14th because I think that they're going to be bringing in another attacker. They have to.
Yeah. Okay. Here's my rebuttal to that. Right. Let's think about last year, and let's think about the year before, and the year before that as well. Chicago Fire. They spent a lot of money too. You can't say their ownership wasn't willing to spend money, but they spent it stupidly. They didn't identify the right talent. And, you look at guys like Shaqiri, and it's like, oh, okay, Shaqiri didn't hit his first season, but, next year it's going to be like, sometimes you just don't hit on the right players, and you don't hit on a coach that is able to use those players. Like, that's where I think RSL are right now. Like, you can throw money at the wall and see if it sticks, but I am so not high on RSL right now.
For
just comparing RSL front office to the historically bad Chicago. I mean, like the only thing that really like trumps Chicago is like Bill Manning over in Toronto using transfer market and like FIFA ratings. Like that's about the only thing that really trumps it. But to say like, hey, it didn't work in Chicago, like I don't think you're wrong, but yeah, okay, you're probably not wrong.
I'll send it over to David after this, but I just want to ask you this. Like, we've seen the West, right, get significantly better this offseason. Like, and even if it's just with a couple moves, like, or a lot of moves, right? Like San Jose are going to do significantly better this year. Enormous overhaul. Look at Austin. They're going to do significantly better this year. They've done a pretty solid overhaul. They got rid of a coach that they really needed to get rid of. Look at Dallas. Dallas has brought in former MVP Acosta. Like, these are meaningful impact upgrade moves, known quantity guys that move the needle. Like, so if they've improved, like, has RSL improved enough to stay ahead of all of those teams? And I think the answer is no.
I guess I'm just banking on with 6-7 more weeks left in the transfer window that this is not the final version of the team. Now, if this is the final version of the team, I think you're probably right. But I feel like I could pretty safely assume that this is not going to be the final version of the team.
Just
Maybe.
to, just to add on that very quick. Last year when the season ended, I remember we did a poll on Twitter, and we got a lot of feedback from RSL fans that they were not happy with Mastroeni. They wanted him out. The system he plays, the type he plays, how he plays, they're tired of it. They want something new. That's the feedback we got from them. Mike, who was our correspondent back then, he was one of the first to write for us and on Twitter, letting us know too that he's getting the same reaction from the fans there. Like they're tired of Mastroeni. They're tired of the same thing over and over every year. Because no matter the player you bring in, Chicho is an attack player. You play the same system. Also, am I the only one last year that honestly thought Chicho didn't belong there? Like he just seemed that type of player in RSL. Like it just seemed out of, I don't know. For me, it just didn't match the city, the plays. Chicho, knowing what kind of player he is, it just didn't match for me. So I'm not surprised he left.
I've heard, I can't say anything specifically, but I've heard that there are several reasons of why he wanted to leave. Some of the stuff is for the reasons that he was suspended, that there was pretty big fracture in relationships and stuff then. So could be part of it. But yeah, I see what you're saying. I just think, Diego Luna has MVP potential like this year, especially if they can get him some help around him, some people to put the ball in the back of the net.
I disagree with that heavily, but we're going to move on. Russell.
Agree with Gavin. I disagree with that heavily as well.
Russell, new boys, San Diego. I think you have them the highest out of all of us. I know you spoke to it a little bit, but do you want to go in a little bit more detail on why you have them in 8th?
Yeah. So, I'm going to say that they are checking a lot of the boxes that St. Louis checked for me coming into the league, where they had a clear identity set up coming in. There's none of the, we're coming in and we're going to, try and do it like our way, but our way is like, we're going to moneyball it, right? Like St. Louis did that, but they had a cohesive identity. San Diego, again, same thing. Like they've got the Right to Dream Academy, and like they're sticking with that identity. They're sticking with a known style of play, and they've taken a year to build out and identify these players. Like you're going to see a cohesive look from them. And sometimes in MLS, like a team that is cohesive and competent and performs better than the sum of their parts, it doesn't matter if you have the best players in the world on it. It's a team that can still put up good performances.
One more I had was Minnesota. We can say that RSL are turning over a lot. Minnesota is bringing back a lot of their great pieces from last year. Why 13th for you?
And you know what? I'm going to put this in the same vein as Salt Lake, right? What has Minnesota done to improve and catch up to the West? Like, again, like, great. You have a phenomenal coach in Ramsey, but like, they just down the stretch last year, they faded. They did, Beau.
I'm pretty sure down the stretch they had a really strong end to the season. If I remember correctly, it was a slow middle of the season that got them.
They got better at the end.
They got better up until I think the final couple weeks, and then they faded. Like that's why they didn't go the rest of the way.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah, and look, again, I hang my laurels on the fact that Minnesota was in contention for like being in the conversation. Like they weren't a bad team last year, but again, I look at it, has Minnesota improved significantly compared to a lot of teams that were below them that have improved significantly?
What I'm struggling with is a lot of teams with the moves they're making have to hit, where Minnesota, we know that they're hits. So I don't think they're dropping what it would be like 5 or 6 or 7 spots from where they where they finished, like in the 7 seed last year, was it? So it's just for 6 teams to overtake them. That means a lot of teams had to really hit on their signings.
And I think that's entirely possible. Like, again, there are known quantities, and like you can say, oh, other teams have to hit, but like, again, look at like some of the names they're bringing in. They're bringing in MVPs. They're bringing in DPs from other teams in the East that these players are hits already. Like this league can turn around impact players. A single really good signing can change the fortunes of a team. And again, I'm going to use Beau's like as the Dallas example. Like Lucho Acosta is going to make that team better just on the merit of him being on that team because he's that good of a player. And Dallas are going to finish above where they finished last year just by having added Acosta. Even if it was just a 1-for-1 swap in isolation and nothing else happened, they would still be better and finish stronger compared to their prior year results. But they didn't just add only Acosta.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we can move on to your picks, David. 1 through 15. Go ahead.
All right. What I love about this is that Russell and I are almost the same picks, so he answered everything for me. All right. I got the Seattle Sounders winning the West. Second place Galaxy, third place LAFC, fourth place San Jose, followed by Colorado. In fifth, sixth Dallas, seventh Austin, eighth Minnesota, ninth Sporting KC, 10th San Diego, 11th Dynamo, 12th RSL, 13th Timbers, 14th St. Louis, and 15th Whitecaps. Main reason I have the Sounders. MLS veterans were added to there that have done well within the league. Arriola, Ferreira. You got João Pablo still there. You got this young kid that they got last year, his first season. I think he was like 6 or 7 million, right? He kind of struggled a bit, but I think
De La Vega.
De La Vega now struggled a bit. Numbers are not there, but I think he's going to be a shining star for them this year, especially with the help they got. Raul Ruidiaz, it was about time he left, right? And they still have Rusnak. Sorry, mispronunciation there. They still have him, and of course, coach-wise, one of the smartest coaches to have ever coached in MLS. Top 3, 4 for me ever in the league. But yeah, I think the MLS veterans is going to help them, and with the players they already have, Rusnak, João Pablo, and De La Vega, I honestly think that they're going to be up there. If not first, I have them first and second.
So since you went straight there, let's talk about it. Trivia question for everybody. When was the last time Seattle Sounders finished first in the West?
4 years ago? No? They love finishing 7th, man. 7th and 6th so they can make a push in the playoffs. That's what they love doing.
It's been a hot minute since they've finished. I want to say it's probably been like 7 or 8 years.
Is it when they broke... No, never mind. Not the supporter... Oh, they got the supporter shield when Marcos Papa was there.
Was it like 2014, 2015?
Yeah.
You got it, Bryce. 2014 was the last time Seattle finished top of the West. And Seattle, I've just default gone to they're not going to finish top. They're not going to finish first for whatever reason. It's part of their DNA. They finished top 2, 3, 4 in that mix every single season. And this is where I did factor in a long, long season for them. They are also in Club World Cup. And they're going to take that seriously. One thing that people aren't speaking about with Club World Cup is that the clubs that Seattle and Miami are going to be playing, well, so especially Seattle, are in their off season. And so we are going to be in the middle of our season, fully ready to go. And teams are going to be in like preseason mode. And not every teams are going to take it seriously, but some of them, aren't going to take it as seriously as they would a Champions League game. And so some of them just look at it as like another cash grab. And so I think Seattle is going to really go for it and try to make some waves in the competition. And so I think they're going to take that seriously. They're obviously in CONCACAF Champions Cup. I believe they're in Leagues Cup as well. They're one of the teams with 3 competitions, them in Miami. And so I think it's a long season. There's going to be MLS games surrounding that. And so that's why I don't have them first, spoiler alert. But David, you went there, so that's where I wanted to go with that. And yeah, last time they finished first was 2014.
Yeah, and from that, I mean, honestly, if you guys had questions for me from ninth and down, I wouldn't be able to answer to you fairly, just because I kind of placed them based on what I've heard from them. The most disappointing one for me was Dynamo. I mean, if you want to consider Herrera an important part of their squad, right? Go ahead. But they lost him. But they lost their main player, Karaski, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, right? Who went to Pumas for a couple of $1 million. He was their heart and soul of that midfield. And then, of course, Ben Olsen had a great season. Who would have expected that? But yeah, that's why I have them so low. I know our friends that keep in tabs is not gonna like that, but they seem frustrated on Twitter as well, from the moves that the club has made. San Diego, same thing with Russell said. Yeah, they added Chucky, they added one or two more players, but it's the same thing we've seen before. We haven't seen teams make moves like LAFC did when they came in, like Atlanta did when they came in. So we really haven't seen that from San Diego. Look, personally, I want any new team to succeed and have a great season. That way, you know, buzz around the city, right? Get more fans in, be a little trend within the city. But I really see them struggling when you have LAFC, you have LA Galaxy, you have San Jose with Bruce Arenas, Joseph, Chicho. You have all these great players there. They have a great number 10, which they've always had, and finally he has some help. Yeah, I think it's going to be a great season for other California teams except San Diego over there.
David, you and I agree very heavily on the other three California teams, right? So you and I ordered it differently, but we both had the rest of California at 2, 3, and 4. Like, is it just the confidence? Is it the history of the teams?
It's Bruce's history. That's why I have San Jose up there. It's Bruce's history. He knows how to get the best of players, and he knows how to get the correct players. Joseph Martinez had a good season with Montreal last year at the ending of the season. He had finished with over 10 goals. Great for him. We're never going to see Joseph like we did in Atlanta. So if you're waiting for Joseph to have that performance, you're not going to see it again. And Bruce is that type of coach that to know how to use him, especially when you have Chicho up there. When you have, my God, who's their number 10 that's always been with them from Argentina? Espinoza. Great player. I feel so bad for him that he's gone through so many coaches, so many players, and he's never gotten the help, and they finally got him the help. Espinoza, long time ago, if he would have gotten the correct players around him, we wouldn't stop talking about him within the league. Because if you look at the way he plays, if you look at his performance, he's always had great games for them. Even when the whole team around him has been trash, he has been the one outperforming the team. But again, I think, Russell, to answer your question, is history. Bruce has proven himself. Nobody expected him to do what he did in Revolution, and that's why I feel confident that he's going to do the same thing in San Jose.
All right, let's move on. Bryce, I believe you are up next.
Falling down a path, I am not the LAFC in first. I have Seattle 1, LAFC 2, Austin 3, Colorado, St. Louis, Minnesota, Galaxy, rounding out the top 7 in the wild card matchup. The 8-9 fun matchup, Houston versus San Jose. And then just missing, I have Dallas, Vancouver, Portland, San Diego, Salt Lake, and then Kansas City at my bottom. Something I realized in the East, I feel like our bottom 2 to 3 were pretty consensus. And looking at the West, we all have a different bottom, and it looks all scrambled. But I think looking at mine, the 3 to 9 to 10 range probably is the most different out of the consensus. So a lot of it's based off of vibes, some of it's based off concerns. So I'm ready to dive into it.
Is San Jose based off on vibes, or you really expect? I'm not San Jose. Sorry, San Luis. Based off on vibes, you expect them to be up there.
I really like St. Louis. I think their summer moves they made last year changed the team. We'll get into it in the bottom, but I really like Marcel Hartel. I think he came in, I think he played 9 games second half of the year. He had 3 goals, 7 assists, over a goal contribution a game. What I am concerned about is their goal production. They need João Klaus to be 2023 João Klaus and not 2024 João Klaus. It's funny because we were talking about NYCFC for me, saying the manager. I have no idea how Olaf Meldberg's going to do in this environment, but talking about Philly and their like Moneyball moves, I really like St. Louis's build. I don't know if they're going to have the 10 on-field players. They have a great goalkeeper, but I really like this team, and I think I was listening to Soccer Wise, and I think they said that they're averaging like 1.5 per game the second half of the year, and that gets you around like the 5 to 7 range. So if they can pick that up where they left off, that's around where I like them. The West was really hard to put together, and that's where I landed on them in 5th, but I think I had them a spot or 2 higher, and then I had them a spot or 2 lower, and then that's where I landed on. And I actually was, Russell said he was really high on St. Louis joining the league. I was super low on St. Louis joining the league, and I was one of the ones that their fans laughed at bringing back receipts. So I think they'll like where I have them this year.
So where I'm going to go with you, Bryce, that you differ from a lot of us is Galaxy in 7th. The reigning MLS Cup champs, obviously Ricky Puig injured, but talk through the rationale there.
I'm concerned. And I could look like an idiot, and I probably will. I've never looked like an idiot before, so this could be a first. But their back line is returning. That's great. That's a good foundation. Ricky Puig out for the year hurts. Just the MLS Cup tax they had to get rid of. Puig you're counting as a loss for the regular season in terms of these spots. I think if they can get in the playoffs, I think they will. Having him back will be fantastic. They also lost Brugman. They also lost Delgado. There's a pretty
also
big
lost
piece.
Davis today, which was pretty shocking.
Yeah. They basically, instead of buying out Brugman's like 1.4 million, they bought out like a smaller percentage of Davis's salary. They're fighting for a lot, and I know Royce and the center back that their captain Yoshida, both of them have had public complaints about how the cap works and all of that. And I would even have them higher if it didn't come out that and they lost Jovic. I can't forget that one as well. I do like Christian Ramirez. I think that's a really good option, especially because they can't add a DP. I'm sure they'll add a U22 to that mix. But then on top of that, Joseph Paintsel is going to miss the first 2 months of the year. And then when that's thrown on, that's where I started saying I could really see a side also with multiple competitions to start the year. I really wouldn't be shocked to throw them at 7. And similar when Beau was saying that he had Charlotte at 2 to really prove his point. I really have that for Galaxy. I really wanted to have them low as like kind of like my hot take in this, because I really could see some MLS Cup hangover from this and all of the attrition that they had from the offseason.
I think those are fair points. It's hard to come back on those. So it could be a disaster year for them. I do think striker-wise, there are what's his name? Nacimiento, is that his name? Am I thinking of somebody else?
Yeah,
He's coming in.
Ramirez. I don't know when it's going to happen. I know it looks like they're getting there. They also have a U22 defensive midfielder coming in to kind of fill the Brugman role. But if I'm as someone who was the biggest Santiago Sosa fan for Atlanta, I don't really think a lot of U22 like sixes have hit in this league yet. And I know that's not fair to him, but like U22 spots just haven't hit in that position yet, especially from the South American markets. They're more so hitting at those like winger positions, the fullback positions, but like as the spine, like it's a really big risk for someone that doesn't have a lot of data on him yet.
Only my beloved Cesar Araujo in Orlando.
Fair. Can't take away from him.
But yeah, you're right. I agree with you there. All right. Any other questions for Bryce?
Bryce. Yeah, I need to ask you something. Why do you have Austin so high? What's going on? Like, look, and I'll phrase this by saying I'm higher on Austin this year, and I'm optimistic for them. But you have them like sky high. We did like I think 3rd. You had them in.
Yeah.
That's
Dude, their goal celebrations in Q2 Stadium are fantastic. So
that's
imagine,
it. Okay.
dude, like having like the green like strobe lights hitting the field, like it. I need to see a game there so bad. I'm more so like similarly to Atlanta. They threw a lot of money at their offense, and I'm putting here that it's gonna click. They were given a lot of money. Jerussi, I can't believe they got that money, but they did and they ran with it. I can't say I know much about the winger coming in, but the front office must feel great about him. They didn't even try to negotiate a price. They just bought out his release clause. Brandon Vasquez, I'm really excited to see how he does back in this league. Someone that's had him in Atlanta, but he really hit in Cincinnati. I'm hoping he does well. The defense, midfield, I'm a little bit concerned. Ilya Sanchez is a fraction of what he used to be, but I think he fits a role that Austin hasn't had since like Alex Ring in like his first couple of seasons there, and he's not on a DP contract like Alex Ring was anymore. I think they also signed like a free agent from Europe that is going to come in and slot day one as a starter. And then I'm really high on Brad Stuber, so I think he's going to have a fantastic year, maybe even goalkeeper of the year. So I'm really Austin and St. Louis are like my two teams. Like I'm starting the year, like they're my Western Conference loves to start the year. On paper, I'm really excited to watch these two teams play.
Look, I dig the Vasquez shout. My one word of caution is I think Vasquez excels in early parts of the year before you figure out his game. But once people realize that most of his game is kind of running off the shoulder, looking to, get in when someone's not looking, and then generally like on the receiving end of a cross or a high ball, like if you can force it to his feet, he's never been clinical with his feet. And so I think when teams out west see him the first time, maybe he'll be able to get that over on them. But I worry what his production will look like in the second half of the year.
Yeah, that's fair. I think a lot of it comes on Uzzini just really being a hit, and then Bukhari just year two takes off, like really taking pressure off of him in the middle because the wing play is just so dominant for him.
Yeah, just Uzuni looks good. I think we're going to be talking about him this season. So I think third is like their ceiling for me. So yeah. Last question, actually. I totally forgot about this. Kansas City last. A lot of people are high on them. Me, not so much, but last place, that's pretty low. I don't think a lot of people have them finishing dead last.
For me, it's so tough. I think for me, like the 11 to 15, the teams that I have: Vancouver, Portland, San Diego, Salt Lake, and Kansas City. Like I think Beau even like walked me back into putting Salt Lake higher. I kind of looked at their current state and not what it could be, but it was really tough for me. I went with Kansas City. I know they made some late moves in this offseason, but I really don't know how it's going to click. I mean, Agata, Jovic, only one of them is going to be on the field probably. If they're going to use both, how does the formation change? And vibes around the club. Peter Vermees, like it feels like every offseason it feels like a when, not if, but it seems like it's an if. And heading in, I just don't really have good feelings about where they. I think Manu Garcia can be a good player for them, and he's really got to be to elevate them closer to that 9 line.
Yep, agreed. All right, I think, Beau, we can pass it over to you for your Western Conference predictions. You're on mute, Beau.
Oops, that was important. Surprise, surprise, I have Seattle number 1. I have San Jose 2, LAFC 3, Minnesota 4, Galaxy 5, Colorado 6, Dallas 7, and then the wild cards, Austin and Houston, and then not making it in order is Salt Lake, Vancouver, Portland, Kansas City, St. Louis, and San Diego. Not going to lie, don't feel super great about the St. Louis pick, but we can get to that later.
Yep. Okay. First, let's just start with your boys, Dallas. We all had them between 6 or 7. So, what? I guess
Yeah,
just give us some background there.
I won't lie. I initially had Dallas uh before the Lucho trade. I had them definitely not making the playoffs. After the Lucho trade, I almost didn't have them making the playoffs. I had to change it about 2-3 iterations. I still just don't trust the defense at all. Um, I've seen what they want to do. I think Anderson Julio is going to have a career year. I think that it's Julio, Musa, and Lucho. And and if either one of those three gets hurt, we're in deep doo doo, especially Lucho and Musa. And I think the other thing too that Lucho is great and all, but uh, man, playing when it's I mean, Lucho will know. I think when Cincinnati came here, I think the heat index like 112 during the game. It just wears on you. And so I'm excited to see what Eric Quill's going to play. But again, I have major concerns defensively and in midfield too. Watching them play the Houston Dynamo went to the game. I had major concerns about the midfielders. So yeah, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Dallas didn't make the playoffs this year. I don't think that'll happen just because Lucho's there and he raises the floor enough, but it could be dicey.
I think looking at your side as well, I think San Jose at 2 is something I wanted to talk about. What's got to go right for San Jose to be closer to 1 than being out of the playoffs?
I think not much. I honestly think that you could make a case that San Jose could be number 1. I only went with Seattle because of the depth, but San Jose has depth too. I mean, Chicho comes off and Joseph Martinez comes in. Espinoza, Mal Pellegrino is probably not even starting on this, and he came from Belgium with the Golden Boot. May not be Belgium. I love the piece that they brought in. Daniel, the goalkeeper, was put up better numbers than Berkey the year that Berkey won goalkeeper of the year, but because of his injury, didn't play enough. Didn't really win the award. If he comes back healthy, San Jose really has everything that you need to be number 1. I have them over LAFC. I have big concerns with LAFC. I don't think. I mean, from my understanding, they're saving the DP spot for Griezmann. I just don't think bringing in old over the hill guys is the way to go in this league anymore. I think Giroud proved it last year.
This wasn't the LAFC that the league fell in love with. Like it feels
Right.
weird that they're switching up their game model here.
Yeah, and it may just be that maybe that's how they got Lloris and Giroud to come in the first place. I don't know. And I know they've been courting Griezmann for like 5 years, so it's not like it's a secret or anything. But yeah, the big one, Minnesota at 4. I think that Minnesota could be as high as number 3. Kelvin Yeboah was insane. Tani Oluwaseyi would start on almost on just about every other team in MLS, maybe except for the top 5, and he's the backup striker. The one thing that's going to hurt them is Sonny Dotson requesting a trade. But I think Minnesota's good. I think the Galaxy, honestly, at 5 is probably too high. I just think with their injuries, I don't think that people know how important that. I mean, Ricky Puig was insane last year, like insane, and not having that is going to be bad. And even if Puig comes back early, the reason Ricky Puig was because Marky Delgado did all the work for Puig off the ball. He did everything so Puig could only focus on that. And now Delgado's gone. So yeah, Colorado is another one that could be sneaky good. I mean, there's honestly, the West is kind of I had a lot tougher time ordering the West than I did the East because I mean, if you could tell me, I mean, if you told me that Vancouver makes the playoffs, I'd believe you. I mean, Ryan Gauld is incredible. Andres Kubas is one of the best center defensive mids in the league. They have Ranko Veselinovic, who at center back is one of the top 10 center backs in the league. Brian White's one of the top 5 to 10 strikers in the league. I mean, the West is really, really hard to really kind of organize. As some of you had said, that like 7 to 13 list can really, it's only really going to be like a matter of a couple points, I think.
All right, well, I'm going to move us on. I will finish us off here. I am the oddball out. LAFC finishing number 1 in my rankings. I've got Galaxy in second, so all of that spiel making me feel bad about myself, Beau. Seattle in third, San Jose in fourth. So I think we all just about had a consistent top 4. Beau, I guess Beau and Bryce, you guys had the differences there, but they were the highest top 4 picked. Austin in 5, St. Louis City in 6. I'm feeling high on them this season as well. Dallas in 7th. I had the Rapids in 8th, Real Salt Lake number 9. So I've got RSL making the playoffs. I think I was the only one out of all of us to do so. Just checking real quick. Yes. Yep. So I'm a RSL lover. Y'all are the RSL haters. 10th, just outside of the playoffs, I have San Diego. I am high on them, but I just don't think they're going to get over the hump. Minnesota United, 11, SKC 12, Portland 13, Houston 14, Vancouver in dead last, 15. Again, struggled a little bit with those last few, but felt confident that those were the teams that were going to miss out. Just not sure how to place them. Where do you guys want me to go first?
I was going to say 2 teams you haven't really hit on. One of them, I think Beau and I had in the wild card, and the other, I think none of us had in the playoffs. Houston and Portland. What are your takes on those 2 teams?
Yeah, Houston, it's just been like not enough change for me. They lose Herrera, who was big for them last year. Kind of like what David said. They lose Herrera, they lose Carrasquilla, and I know they got McGlynn in, but I don't see the game changers for them personally. I really struggle to see them keep up with the Western Conference. And so I have them pretty low. I just don't think it's going to be a good season for them. And so for me, it's just, did they do enough additions to keep up with the West? And I just think the quality is surpassing them personally.
Beau's shaking his head yes to keep up with the West. You're crazy if they did enough to keep
No,
up.
no, I'm telling you, Jack McGlynn is a generational talent. I think, and Houston literally looking at their system and the way they set it, the way they're actually playing. They're playing in a 4-2-3-1 with McGlynn and Artur as a double pivot. You know, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Artur play. He's an absolute bulldog of a center defensive mid. He does everything that Jack McGlynn doesn't. Jack McGlynn is the best passer in MLS. And so his job is to just be a deep line playmaker. Houston's going to get back Nelson Quinones halfway through the year through injury. Also, as well, I think Lawrence Anali should come in later on. I think Brooklyn Reigns is really going to step up this year. I've been really impressed with him. I think he has breakout potential. I think losing Mikhail, the center back who just got sold, I think that really hurts. He was way better than people really thought. And I know that there's
really
concerns. Yeah, there was concerns with. I know that Coco Carrasquilla is good. The McGlynn Herrera replacement is kind of a wash. But I think that looking at the way they played and Amin Bassi stuff kind of dropping it, I think that Houston's going to be a lot better than people think. A lot better than people think.
So I think they're going to be good. Well, no, I don't think they're going to be good. I won't lie. I just don't see the people who are going to put the ball in the back of the net, I guess. I guess that's my concern. Like, I agree they're going to be able to pass. They're going to be able to have the ball. But, like, who's going to score the goal, I guess, is my question. And maybe that it is that new striker that they bought, Ponce. But, like, I don't know. I haven't watched him. So maybe that's just my problem. I just haven't watched his tape. I don't know if he's someone who we should be really excited about. But I just don't know, I guess. But so that's kind of the bias I'm bringing into this.
Well, I'll confirm your bias. The answer is no. You don't need to be excited about Ezequiel Ponce.
Okay. Thank you for.
And yes, Gavin, your your concern is exactly my concern, and why I had Houston pretty low as well. Is like, Beau, to your point, you can have great passers. And I bet that Houston are going to be really up there for like dangerous chances created, but it's going to be that conversation that Gavin and I love to have, where it's like, how much does a big chance matter from a stats standpoint? Like, what, like, you can have 5 big chances, and then you'll see stats where it'll be like Cincinnati with our horrific scoring situation last year. 7 big chances created, 6 missed. Like, and the thing is, if that's Houston every time, like if you're 5 big chances created, 4 missed, or 6 big chances created, 6 missed, you can have the best passers in the league if they're passing it to players who don't put it in the back of the net.
I saw enough flashes of promise with Ponce to be able to put it in the back of the net. I think him and Bossy being able to link up is going to be good. And again, I mean, I think Jack McClellan has an MVP candidate worthy season this year. I mean, in reality, you watch the Dynamo, it's like you stay for Jack McClellan. Anything else that happens is just cherry on the cake. I don't know if that's a thing people actually say, but it is now. I'm going to say it with enough authority, like that. That was a correct thing.
I like my cherry on a milkshake.
Here's a question that I've got for you, Beau. Now, so Diego Luna is going to have an MVP season, and Jack McGlynn's going to have an MVP season. Like,
I said MVP caliber season.
So, like,
we're gonna give out a lot of MVP awards this year, man. Did you not get the memo? No, I think these are all MVP candidates. Is what when I say MVP season, I mean like how Evander was like an MVP candidate last year.
I think they are MVP candidates in like 2 or 3 years. I don't think they're MVP candidates this year.
By they, you mean he and Luna?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. See, I think Luna's going to be probably a bigger shout, because my understanding is Luna is literally he's been given the keys to the car. It's his team. You do what you want. So they're going to sink or swim on Luna. Same with McGlynn. So if they do rise to the top, it's going to be because of those guys.
Well, Luna got to look what type of car he has, because it ain't looking good.
He's got a Pontiac Aztec is what he might be driving over there.
Hey, okay, let's hit on Portland real quick. On the Portland side of things, they sell Evander. They bring in David Pereira da Costa from Lens in France. So Evander was big for them. And my concern, probably the same concern that you guys have, is he going to be a direct like-for-like replacement in the output department? And then Kevin Kelsey, is he going to be someone who helps them score goals? They had a good attack last season. A lot of that was Evander, but also Anthony and Jonathan Rodriguez as well up there. I mean, they have a pretty good attack. It's just, and Felipe Mora as well. But defensively, again, like, are they going to improve in that aspect? I don't know. I had them pretty low. I had them, I guess, just going on a bad run of form and not even being close to the playoffs in 13th. You could convince me that they get closer to the playoffs based off their attack. But yeah, for me, it's just, I think losing Evander and replacing him with a new player, that's just gonna hurt a little bit, unless this guy is just as good. But that's you don't know. You don't know how players are going to adapt. So that's why I had them out of the playoffs, Bryce. I don't know if that's why you had them so low as well.
Yeah,
Kelsey's going to be good.
I don't know how it's going to get. It feels like Rodriguez is going to drop that goal number some. I don't think he replicates it. And obviously now they have to hit on this DP10 again, as much as Evander was a hit coming from the Danish league, I think it was. So now they have DaCosta coming in, and I think he's a good player, but they just have to take another swing.
And last question on that. I know we have a couple of more things to go through, Gavin. Do we see Portland's coach, Gary, right? What's his last name? Neville. Do we see him lasting the whole season?
Probably, yeah.
unless like they're like spoon contenders like the halfway through the year, which I don't think their roster's that bad. I think he lasts a year or two.
Yeah. Okay. I could also see him getting fired, but I think they're going to want to stick with him. They're going to want some continuity there. We didn't talk about this team really at all. Vancouver Whitecaps. I put them in 15th. For Vancouver, they lose their head coach, Vinny Sartini. They bring in the new guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I think he's from Norway. Can't remember his name, but Sorensen maybe. He I just don't know. I don't know how he's going to do. I don't know how the team's going to do. They have quality, but they also have the potential to just go on a dead streak where they just lose. And so for me, they were the worst team in the Western Conference heading into the season, just because of the unknowns with the new coach and how are their players going to react to the new system.
You are incredibly misinformed, Gavin.
You are a Vancouver apologist, so I don't want to hear from you.
Okay, listen.
That's
Look,
two apologists here.
You don't need to be a Vancouver apologist to at least, acknowledge the fact that like there is pretty significant talent on the Vancouver side. Now, I will tell you right now, I don't think Vancouver are winning any trophies this year.
Canadian Championship.
Win the Canadian Championship.
They're not winning any USA trophies this year.
Real trophies? Is that what you're trying to say, Russell?
Aren't they like 3-time like defending
in a row?
Yeah, but here's the thing: we don't cover the Canadian Championship on this podcast, so.
Beau, I know a new segment you can start.
Yeah, you can start the Canadian Championship segment, Beau. But here's the thing: they're not set up in a way that I think lets them see any success in MLS. But again, individual talent on that roster is still above a number of teams in the West. And I think there's going to be some bad teams in the West this year. And look, I'm sorry, I'm looking at you, Houston. Houston are my early spoon winners, personally.
Okay. Agree to disagree. I guess last thing, maybe Colorado. I feel all you guys had them in the playoffs, top 7, except for me. I don't see it with them. What am I missing?
You're missing that Colorado currently lead LAFC in the Champions Cup.
They scored the most goals.
Colorado's. I mean, if Zach Seffin decides to actually not pick the ball out of the back of his net, it's like he's like, I think that's my goal, right? Like, I'm just here to pick it out. If he decides to actually show up, man, Colorado's good. Like Georgi Mihailovic was amazing. Cole Bassett is probably the most underrated player in MLS. Like I think he runs more than anyone else. Like it's actually insane. Rafa Navajo was good. Kevin Cabral actually wasn't bad whenever he was hurt. Like they actually had a dip in form whenever he was injured. And then they're actually somewhat decent defensively. Brought in Reggie Cannon. They brought in Awaziem and Ian Murphy from Cincinnati. Backed it up. I mean, like, Colorado's going to be good. Like, Colorado's probably the team that I feel like afterwards is going to be like, I had them too low.
Okay.
I really like Cannon and Vines as their fullback. Like, go on your Europe travel, come back. Obviously, yeah, I know you're saying Vines not as much, but I still believe.
I guess
Awaziem's such a good shout, too. Like, we're just going to keep cutting off Gavin so he doesn't get a chance to say anything in his segment here. But yeah, I'll tell you right now, Cincinnati fans were not happy to see that Awaziem was traded away to Colorado. And from what I heard, Awaziem was not Cincinnati's first choice to trade away, but they needed to make a trade, and Colorado was adamant, we want Awaziem. And when you were in the pickle that Cincinnati was in with their roster space, then yeah, like
So
Awazium's great.
So just I think the thing that stuck in my mind was a reduction in goal scoring from Rafael Navarro is going to impact them. But if on the other end, Zach Steffen can, show his past form, then maybe that's the difference maker there from Colorado. So, okay, we can move on unless there's any last things you guys want to talk about. Going once. Okay, cool. We're going to fly through this next section because we just spent an hour on each conference. But really, this is just our picks for trophies and like Golden Boot, Breakout Player. So some fun stuff here. Just shout yours out quickly. We'll go across left to right on the grid that we have. So I'll start MLS Cup. I have it going back to LAFC, staying in Los Angeles, but across the city. LAFC win MLS Cup. I just think that it's going to be a good season for them, and I'm banking on Griezmann coming in and being a big star for them personally. So I think that's where I was going with LAFC going all the way. Russell.
I'm taking Seattle, and I'll tell you right now, Gavin, Seattle, I think, has the depth this year to make a really good run in the Cup. I mean, it's a long season. We talk about a 10-month season, right? Like, how many teams are going to stay healthy until December? How many teams have guys and have enough of them to have, starting caliber players in every position in December?
I think Seattle's a fair choice, and they obviously have the pedigree to go and do that. Gosh, David.
Did you say gosh to remember my name?
No, I not to remember your name. I just had to scroll up on my little thing here.
Well, I got FC Cincinnati. I'm done hating on them. I've been hating on them for years now. That's honestly my main reason.
Nothing else, just vibes?
Just vibes. I want to make Russell happy this year.
I love it. All right, Bryce.
Seattle. With all of their roster flexibility that MLS is giving them, they have to walk away with the trophy this season, in my opinion. And as Russell said, they have the depth to do it. Nuhu, Rodon, and Areola, one of them isn't going to start for them in every game, but they can flex around a 3-back, 4-back to fit whatever game they have to in the second halves of games. I just think they just had an amazing offseason. I can't wait to watch Seattle.
Yeah, me neither. Beau, I won't take your thunder, so go ahead, but I have a question. Beau, go ahead.
Yeah, I've got Cincinnati. I guess you were going to ask me how I have them whenever they're what, I have them 6th.
You have them like 5th or 6th, yeah. But
yeah, I don't think that there's not a huge correlation between where you finish. I mean, the Seattle Sounders have shown over the year it's how you go. It's how you are going into the playoffs more than anything. I mean, the Red Bulls proved it this year. For me, my big thing is defense wins championships. And I think that if Miazga, Miles Robinson, and DeAndre Yedlin are healthy, and if Obina Nwobodo, boy, I'm really doing this one. Nwobodo. There we go. Been a long day. If Nwobodo goes back to how he was 2 years ago, then it's going to be hard to score.
Fair enough. Okay, that was my only question. Okay, Supporters Shield next. I'm going to stick with LAFC. I had LAFC 1 on the West, Inter Miami on the East, number 1. And for me, it's just the long season. The long season for Inter Miami. I think if LAFC is to finish 1, I think they will just edge out the points on Inter Miami. So that's my Supporters Shield. Russell.
Heyo, I'm taking Cincinnati for the Supporters Shield.
Cincinnati
just vibes.
Too.
Yeah.
Cincinnati too.
Just straight vibes. I mean, I put Cincinnati winning the East, and again, I think when I look at the West has a lot of teams that are really close. So I don't know if I could take a team out West winning the Supporters Shield when I think it's going to be lower point totals, just because it's a little less stratified out there. So I got to take the Eastern team, where I think there's a few more bad teams in the East than there are bad teams in the West.
Fair. Bryce?
Also, I went with Cincinnati. I think my only concern is how they start with all the changes, all the noise. If they can start well and they're hanging like top 3 in the race, I think they're just going to skyrocket as the season goes on because they can add another DP. Is that right, Russell? Like eventually they can add a third DP like that.
Maybe it kind of depends what's going on with Orishano. Like
Yeah.
they got to get that situation figured out, but so maybe is the answer. They could, in theory, add a DP. They also might not.
All right. Well, even regardless, my pick is with Cincy, but I think Miami, like with how I have them 1 and 2, I think that'll be a race.
Mm-hmm. And Beau?
I have Miami. I think that without the Argentina obligations, words are hard, man. Argentinian obligations and stuff, I think Messi may actually play a little bit more. And I think that also, yeah, they're just really deep. They really are. They keep getting quality players who come in for a discount because they want to play with Messi, and that's worth a lot. Similar to how we're hyping up Seattle for the same thing. Miami's been doing the same thing all offseason. They just have Messi, Suarez, and Alba and Busquets as well.
Love it. All right. Leagues Cup. I went with Atlanta United. I think they're a team that could go on a run in this competition and take it seriously. And by the middle of the season, you think their new players will be up and running. And so I think they're a serious threat to silverware this season. I think Leagues Cup is where they could do it.
I took LA Galaxy in the Leagues Cup this year. And you know what? I think it's right that time of year where Pooj should be coming back from injury. They should have other guys still coming in relatively fresh. And yeah, I mean, I think it just depends on where they are in the season. If they look like they're not going to win Supporter Shield, then maybe they just say, hey, you know what? Let's go all in on Leagues Cup and see if we can win a trophy this year in a competition that we haven't won yet.
David?
Yeah, I got Atlanta as well. I think their players should be up and running by then, and it's a good way for them to get back into the CONCACAF Champions League.
The Cup. Champions Cup.
Copa.
Yeah. Bryce?
I went with Atlanta as well. It's funny to say because actually in the first 2 years, Atlanta did not make it out of the group stage competition, which was one of the easiest things to do. You just had to finish first or second out of a group of 3. But their 3 games are, I mean, can't say no anyone else's schedule besides Atlanta because you're playing against 3 Liga MX teams, but you're actually competing against the MLS teams for one of the top 4 spots to move on. But their 3 games that they're playing are pretty light when it comes to like the Liga MX, like Giants. Like they play Pumas, but like are like I'm not too worried about that one. It feels right that Atlanta's going to compete for silver, like you guys said, and it feels like the summer could be when it's all honed in. And if it isn't, then they can hit in like that late June window to add pieces to that. So
I looked at some of the other teams' games while I was looking at this, and almost everyone has a pretty tough matchup. So if Atlanta can go 3 for 3, I think they're like almost guaranteed first. Like a lot of teams have a Cruz Azul or a Tigres or what was the other one? Monterrey. Like so
like Club America, yeah.
So they got a light schedule, so I think it could get them at MLS number 1.
It's funny because the coach that couldn't get us past the group stage in any of them, Gonzalo Pineda, we play him 3rd in Atlanta. So if he's not fired yet in Atlas, that'll be a fun little matchup in a Mercedes-Benz.
Yep. All right, Beau. You're on mute.
I have Tigres. In reality, I don't really care. I'm kind of tired of this MLS like trying to drive the hype and make us care about some meaningless competition in the middle of thing. But I'm also grumpy. So, yeah, I went with Tigres because they're really good, especially whenever comes to no extra time and penalty shootouts. So, Tigres.
Fair enough. All right, CONCACAF Champions Cup. I went with Inter Miami. I think that is going to be the competition that Miami are going to go heavy into, and I think they have a light run up considerably to the semifinals. I think it is. I think it's all MLS until the semifinals for them, if I remember correctly.
If you count LAFC, like
It's
LAFC's
not-
like in their like quadrant. So,
yeah, I mean,
but yes, if they win against KC, then they play like a CPL side, and then
yeah, and then it's LAFC probably. So I think it's doable for them to get to that last four, and then at that point anything can happen. And we've seen Messi do it. Messi and friends do it in the Leagues Cup a couple of seasons ago. I think if they get that far into the competition, that is where they can win it. And I think they're going to be targeting that personally. Russell.
Gavin, you might think that Messi and friends can do it, but I can tell you right now they can't do it on a cold night in Kansas City, so I don't think that they can do it in Champions Cup. But you know who I think can do it in Champions Cup? Monterrey, because they are a colossal club in CONCACAF. And on top of that, have you seen their bracket? Like, come on, that's a sweetheart bracket for most of the competition. Like, if Monterrey isn't favored to make it into a Final Four spot, at which point they're again one of the best teams in CONCACAF. Like, they've got to be the favorites.
Yeah, I think they're one of the favorites for the competition for sure. David.
Inter Miami, they gotta win something. So this is what I think they're gonna focus on, and this is out of all the cups. I'm not saying they're not gonna ignore the MLS Cup, but out of all of the ones, I think this is the one they are kind of still butthurt about compared to last time they were there. So what you said, Gavin, I think the other focus is gonna be put on this one.
Bryce.
Monterey, every reason that Russell said, and that was I kind of just looked at the bracket and I just chose easiest path Monterey mid-season right now. It's funny because I picked Monterey first in our Leagues Cup draft, and they did not make a far run at all. So I'm doubling down here. Monterey, please give me a run.
Oh, the Leagues Cup drafts, the good old days. That was fun. And Beau.
I'm going Cruz Azul. Cruz Azul won the Apertura in the first half. And I know you guys are going Monterrey. I almost went Monterrey, but Monterrey struggled. They finished fifth in the Apertura, and they're in 10th in the Clausura right now. So their run of form hasn't been great. And Cruz Azul has been spending a ton of money, and they very clearly have a very strong desire to win. And I think that pushing for the CONCACAF Cup is probably going to be on the top of the agenda for the owners and front office.
Bogusz to score the winner?
Yes.
That would be iconic.
From a pass from Luca Orjano.
Oh, yes. Of course. Okay, Open Cup. We've seen more teams in the Open Cup this season, so that's going to be fun. I went with Charlotte SC. I think that this is a competition that some of those like middle tier clubs are going to be taken really seriously. And I think Charlotte is a team that could go on a run and could do really well in a cup competition. With a defense that is really solid, especially if they get to run home games, and an offense that can really put the ball in the back of the net when they feel like it. One of those teams that like they get one chance and they'll score a goal. I feel like with Zaha up front and Aubameyang as well. So yeah, I think Charlotte could be Open Cup champions this season. Pass it over to you, Russell.
It's clearly going to be St. Louis, and I'll tell you right now, it's because Bruce Arena is going to look at U.S. Open Cup and he's going to be like, that is an easy path to win silverware.
San Jose, you mean?
Yep, San Jose. Yeah, that's definitely what I meant to say. If I didn't say that, I wouldn't pay attention.
You were just
Uh,
testing us, and we passed.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yes, San Jose to win U.S. Open Cup easily. I think some of the biggest opponents that they could face in U.S. Open Cup aren't there, and we are already quite high on what they're going to do in the regular season. If you have an easy path to qualify for Champions Cup, go for it.
Yeah, that's fair. David?
Same thing, San Jose. This is Bruce's arenas to get some silverware with the squad he has and the people he brought in. So, yeah, I think they're going to put all their efforts into it.
Awesome. Bryce?
St. Louis, one, because I wanted to double down on my love for them heading into 2025, and two, because this is their only competition, and there's not too many teams that can say that outside of MLS. So I think they can put a lot into this tournament.
You heard it here first. St. Louis no longer in MLS. U.S. Open Cup is their only competition.
It's too late for that, Russell.
Beau, go ahead.
For me, I went Dallas. Dallas always goes really, really big for the U.S. Open Cup. The Hunts, it's named the Lamar Hunt Open Cup. His sons own the Dallas team, so it's a very important trophy for them. And I normally would have gone, but then you throw Lucho Acosta in there, and it just takes a moment. So Dallas, because that literally is just like top of their list every year.
Very fair, very fair. Wooden Spoon, this one's always a fun one. This is what everyone is listening for. Who's going to win the Wooden Spoon this season? I've got Nashville SC down at the bottom in the Eastern Conference. I just think right now they look terrible, and on paper at least. They looked terrible last season, and not much seems to have changed. So they get last for me. Russell.
Yeah, Gavin, I agree with everything that you just said about Nashville, but I think Houston is even worse. So I've taken Houston as my Wooden Spoon winner.
Love it.
And I agree with you guys have to say, but I'm taking Chicago just because the city doesn't care about them, and neither do I at the moment.
David, you moved Chicago out of last place.
I tried to bold
Somebody added them in right there.
No, it was Chicago.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, you have Whitecaps or Toronto?
No, was it? Hold up, let me double check on mine. Oh, Toronto, yeah.
Toronto. Okay, we'll put Toronto in for you.
Yeah, it's a lot of money they're spending. 12 million, was it on Insigne, or 10 million?
15 million.
Is it 15 million? Jesus Christ! All right, yeah, no, they're trash. Tell Insigne to go to Chicago instead, then.
Yeah, I'm going with Toronto as well. If San Jose wasn't historically bad last year, they probably should have gotten as well. And this is their year; they're going to get it for me.
Oh,
I feel bad for Frazier.
Nashville is an absolute train wreck. They're in cap hell. They went and spent a bunch of money on Surridge as their center striker, and then they realized, oh wait, he's better as a winger. Hani Mukhtar has no one that is actually dangerous, so everyone just double teams him. They can't go out and get anyone. There are no young players coming through because the last coach, can't remember his name, Dean Smith. Is that right?
Gary Smith.
Gary Smith, thank you. Gary Smith hated young players, so there's no one coming through the academy. There is just literally no hope. Nashville, they should probably just burn it down.
All right. Golden Boot. I skipped one. Golden Boot, breakout players, super fun though. Next. Golden Boot. I said it before, I'm going with Hugo Kuipers. He's won a couple Golden Boots in his career, and I think he could be a big player for Chicago. So that's my hot take. Kuipers 2025 breakout season. Golden Boot.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say everything that Beau said about Messi having less Argentina duty makes me think that he's going to put even more balls on a silver platter for Luis Suarez. It doesn't matter if he's jumping around on one knee or not, David. As long as he's got one, 1 foot or even just like, his head or something, like if he's out on the field, he's going, yeah, he can even hand of God it, right? Like if he's on the field, Messi's gonna find a way to put the ball, in off of him somehow.
Okay. All right. Well, my turn. If Suarez can do it with one knee, then Latte and Atlanta can do it with 2 good knees and that speed he has. I don't think the MLS defense is ready for him, so I got him.
Went with
Alright.
Kevin Denke. This is just kind of hedging my Cincinnati shield. I think if they're going to hit the ground running immediately, it's going to come from him just hitting the ground running as well and fitting that price tag.
All right, and Beau.
I'm Dennis Bawanga. I'm a self-admitted Dennis Bawanga fanboy. I've tried to get help, but sadly there is no cure. Yeah, I think that he will win the Golden Boot, and shocker, he'll also win the MVP because I think Dennis Bawanga is the best player in MLS right now. And yeah, I know what I just said, but Dennis Bawanga is the best player in MLS. Now that Cujo's gone.
I would argue that, but it's too late for that.
Anyways, breakout player. I went with Mirto Uzuni, new attacker for Austin FC. We didn't really cover them in depth in the Western Conference section, but Uzuni, he just looks really exciting. Goal scoring winger, can create as well. I think that he is a name that we're going to be talking about this season, just after 8-10 weeks or so. So, Austin FC's Uzuni.
You are a very brave man to pick anyone other than Latte Loth, who is the most expensive inbound signing in MLS history, and he's going to get hyped up all the time. Like,
If you're the most expensive player in MLS history, how can you be a breakout player?
because everyone's like, oh, look, he's coming to MLS because he can't make it in the Premier League. These teams don't want him. Like, I can see Latte Loth coming here and then leaving like a year later because other teams are going to be like, wait a second, this guy's actually really, really good. We should have spent the money last year for him. We'll spend it now.
All right, I'm going with Russell. Same thing. Chucho just did it, right? He came from Europe. He performed well. Now he went back to Europe. Latte got it, man. Latte with his 2 good knees. He can do it.
My version of breakout, it was tough because I didn't really know we were going for. My version was like somebody that was in the league that people are gonna talk about as one of the better players, if not like top 3 to 5 player in their position at the end of the year. And I think in the 8 role, like a free 8, Marcel Hartel, I'm fully sold on him. Like you look at his advanced numbers for midfielders, like he's like 95 plus in every single attacking category, and I just think the role he's in St. Louis is going to be great.
I like it.
Yeah, I went with Kelvin Yeboah. I went with someone who didn't have a massive price tag that everyone is expecting to just be the best player. No, but for real, Kelvin Yeboah came over from City A, was kind of like thrown off, like was kind of didn't really do much over there. Came over here, really hit the ground running with Minnesota. I think he's got some serious Golden Boot potential.
Awesome. And I'll finish it off with this last section. That was a bonus that Russell threw in. Will Messi win MVP? Yes. Yes, he will win MVP. I think there's too many politics around Messi when it comes to voting for a player. I think he will win MVP.
Yep. I put this in because I think the answer is yes. And not only do I think the answer is yes, I think he's going to win it this year by even more than he did last year because he's not going to be away at international matches as much this year. So now I think the players are all going to vote for him like they did last year. The media is all going to vote for him like they did last year. I think this time around now coaches and club staff will vote for him more because he's not missing as many matches.
Going for no. I got Peck or Evander.
All right.
I'm saying yes for similar reasons already said. There's no voter fatigue like the NBA MVP when it comes to someone like Messi. The only way I can't see it happening is, injuries keep him on the field. He has like similar like numbers as last year, and then like somebody hits like 28 plus goals, like gets near that like Joseph Vela record.
In reality, no. I mean, yes, he probably will win it. I mean, he barely played half of his team's matches last year and won it. It's just because of who he is, so it's kind of silly. I'm hoping this year maybe he'll actually earn it and actually deserve it, because last year it should have been Cucho. I actually am just going to assume no. Messi's hamstring finally gives out. That Father Time is still undefeated, and that Dennis Bouanga goes off for Carlos Vela like numbers, and then gets that big deal, goes back to France.
All right. Well, my backup option, by the way, I don't know if you guys have backups, but mine was David Martinez with LAFC. I think we're going to see a big season for him. I like the look of him. Okay.
Wait, for MVP?
No. Sorry, for breaking player.
Okay. Just
Not
making
for
sure.
MVP. That would have been as crazy as Diego Luna.
I was like, that is bold. Oh, now that was a good shot at the end.
Or Jack McGlynn.
Or that on there.
Jack McGlynn, like what? Who would say that? That's crazy town? Okay, okay. So that's it. We're not gonna finish off with the best 11. We'll do that different time. We are multiple hours in. Let's just go around the room. Last word from all of you tonight. Russell, we'll start with you. Any last word from you?
Home opener. It's coming up. Woo.
Woohoo.
I'm ready to go to bed.
Yep.
It's now, we've now been recording for 2 days.
Yes, that is true. David?
If those are Russell's jokes, I can't wait for his dad jokes.
Oh, gonna be amazing.
Watch out.
Bryce?
I'll be with a bunch of college friends this weekend that would never watch MLS with me in college, so I'm going to have to make them watch it now this weekend. Can't wait.
Okay. Growth of the league, baby. And Beau?
Just remember, Diego Luna, Jack McGlynn for 2025 MVP. Heard it here first. Go ahead and get your t-shirt orders in now.
Both of them win MVP.
Cut his mic.
Yeah. Last word from me is thank you guys so much for sticking with us. Thanks for listening. As always, until next time.